Warrior Lore. Chapter 299. Demonic cultivators at the 7th and 8th heavens of the ascended mortality realm had extremely powerful primordial spirits. As long as they locked onto a person's aura, as long as that person was still within their sensing range, it was impossible for that person to disappear just like that. If this person's aura was truly gone, then there were only two possibilities. One was that this person had suddenly died. The second was that this person had used a magic treasure that could isolate aura, or an extremely powerful concealment technique to block the aura that was leaking out of his body. However, in the eyes of the two mysterious experts of the Zhao clan, Gu Fei was a disciple of the Beitang clan of the Central Plains. Since he was able to defeat Zhao Mu, the most outstanding descendant of the Zhao clan, even if he was injured during the fight, he would not die suddenly. Could it be that the Beitang family of the Central Plains had an extremely powerful concealment technique other than the 5 elements' divine ability? In the dark night, most of the houses in front of them were emitting light. Even in the Crimson Moon City, there were very few people walking around after nightfall. After nightfall, most of the people who walked around in the Crimson Moon City were demonic cultivators with cultivation. Ordinary people would usually stay in their houses. The streets were very deserted. Occasionally, there would be some figures in black rushing past. It was completely different from the lively atmosphere during the day. There was no other way. Even in the Crimson Moon City, there was still danger after nightfall. Ordinary people were too weak for demonic cultivators. Of course, the demonic cultivators in the city would not go too far. After all, those demonic cultivators still needed to recruit disciples from the ordinary people in the city. The people in the city were the resources of the major forces in the city. It was also the biggest capital for these families to pass on their inheritance. No one would start a massacre in the city. Where the hell is that guy hiding? A figure shrouded in a dark gray death chi said in a low voice as he stood on the tallest building in the building. Beside him stood a hazy figure shrouded in demonic chi. He must still be in this area. He must be hiding in a corner. The hazy figure shrouded in demonic chi said coldly, "Search again." The figure with a heart-palpitating deathly aura said. Then, the two figures separated and rushed into the houses and pavilions below. The two figures quickly moved through the streets and alleys. The aura of death and the terrifying demonic chi caused the residents of this region to tremble in fear. The two experts of the Zhao clan didn't even bother to conceal their powerful auras. In the distance, someone was secretly spying on what was happening here. The Zhao family had sent out 2 great experts to hunt down Gu Fei, which had already been noticed by several major forces in the city. Outrageous. Where the hell is that guy hiding? The figure shrouded in death chi walked out of an alley. Another figure surging with ink-like demon chi rushed out of the houses and returned to the highest pavilion. 2 terrifying divine lights shot out from the demonic aura, sweeping in all directions. However, he still didn't find anything. The young expert from the Beitang clan seemed to have disappeared into thin air. He was shocked to find that he couldn't sense any aura in the void. However, at this moment, an unforeseen event occurred. The figure shrouded in death aura outside the alley did not notice at all that a hand had reached out from the darkness behind him. A dim golden sword shadow silently appeared from the hand that had reached out from the darkness. Then, in an instant, it shot towards the figure shrouded in death chi at the entrance of the alley. There were no energy fluctuations or auras. It was as if the blurry golden sword shadow was traversing through another world. The expert from the Zhao clan didn't notice anything strange behind him at all. He wanted to meet up with his companion on the pavilion. However, at this moment, the golden sword shadow silently pierced through the layer of death chi outside his body. That master instantly became alert, but it was already too late. The golden sword shadow was as fast as lightning, piercing through the deathly aura around his body. Only then did he realize that at such a close distance, it was impossible for this master to dodge. The expert of the Zhao family was scared out of his wits in that instant. Before he could do anything, that blurry, faint golden sword shadow pierced through his abdomen with a puff sound. How is this possible behind me, in the alley? There's no one. The moment the expert from the Zhao clan was pierced through his abdomen, the light in his eyes disappeared. It was as if all the strength in his body was pouring out from the bloody hole in his abdomen. The person who had sneakily attacked him from behind was clearly aware of the weakness of the Devil Dao cultivators. When the illusory golden sword shadow pierced through the Zhao clan expert's abdomen, it also shattered the devil core in his body. Devil Dao cultivators were the same as Taoist cultivators. The devil core was condensed in the dantian of Devil Dao cultivators, while the Taoist core was condensed in the body of Taoist cultivators. There was no difference between the two. They walked the same path. The only difference was the nature of the power. One cultivated righteousness, while the other cultivated the most evil and evil power to kill all living beings. The expert from the Zhao clan didn't die. Instead, he staggered forward. The person behind him walked out of the dark alley and was about to give him a fatal blow. However, at this moment, the other expert from the Zhao clan who was standing at the top of the pavilion had already noticed something strange. He immediately rushed over like a cloud of black smoke. The person who walked out of the alley quickly retreated back into the alley. Swoosh! A figure shrouded in devil chi instantly appeared at the entrance of the alley. He reached out to support the middle-aged man who was on the verge of collapse. At this moment, the middle-aged man who had his abdomen pierced and his devil core destroyed, the layer of heart-palpitating death chi around him had already dissipated. "What's wrong with you?" The devil chi surged. The devil shadow and the devil chi emitted a strong energy fluctuation. Two beams of divine light shot out from the illusory figure and scanned the surroundings. Be careful. He's nearby," the seriously injured expert from the Zhao clan said in a trembling voice. His strength seemed to have been completely drained. His originally black hair gradually turned snow-white. Just a moment ago, he was a Devil Dao cultivator with profound cultivation. Now, he had turned into a white-haired old man. His skin also quickly lost its luster, lost its elasticity, and wrinkled. After the Devil Dao expert from the Zhao clan had his devil core destroyed, he rapidly aged, as if he had been deprived of endless vitality. He became a weak old man. "He's nearby? Did he hurt you?" How is this possible?" The expert from the Zhao clan who was supporting the old man was shocked. At the same time, he couldn't believe it. His sharp gaze swept around, but he couldn't find any trace of Gu Fei's aura. In the void, there were no residual fluctuations of the power of metal. I didn't see wrong. That's a golden sword shadow," the old man said in a trembling voice. He was weak. The current him no longer had the prestige he had when he was chasing after Gu Fei. The devil core had been destroyed by Gu Fei's sword. He had already changed from a high and mighty expert to a white-haired old man who was inferior to ordinary people. He was already crippled. Roar! The black shadow shrouded in devil chi roared towards the sky. His voice shook the sky. He was angry. This time, they had miscalculated. They thought that killing Gu Fei would be an incomparably easy matter. Who would have thought that not only did they not kill Gu Fei, but Gu Fei had also crippled the cultivation of an older expert. The residents of this area, under the roar of the devil shadow, were terrified. "Let's go back first." The devil shadow roared fiercely on the deserted street. Then, he grabbed the arm of his companion who had already turned into an old man, soared into the sky, and quickly left the area. The enemy was in the dark, they were in the open, and one of them had already been crippled. The current situation was very disadvantageous for the two older experts of the Zhao clan. They decisively retreated, and after Gu Fei's attack succeeded, he immediately fled. A silhouette silently traversed through the layers of houses. An unfathomable power isolated this person's aura, as if he had jumped out of this part of the world. It had to be said that the Red Moon City was an incomparably huge city. From the west of the city, Gu Fei passed through countless streets and alleys. With his speed, it took him an hour to arrive at the east of the city. He leaped into an abandoned house. The location of this house was very remote, and there were very few people around. The abandoned courtyard was overgrown with weeds. The broken doors and windows swayed in the wind, making creaking sounds. Creak! The surroundings were very quiet, so quiet that it made people feel a sense of oppression. Gu Fei did not enter the house. Instead, he sat down under a withered tree in the courtyard in front of the house. The brief exchange with the two experts of the Zhao clan made him feel the threat of death. Under the internal inspection, Gu Fei discovered that his sternum, which was glowing with a faint multicolored glow, was not only covered with cracks, but even his internal organs were injured by the kick of the Zhao clan expert. Withdrawing his divine sense from his body, Gu Fei opened his eyes. Then, he took out a vermilion spirit herb from his storage bag and chewed it and swallowed it. Gu Fei only felt a warm current flowing down from his throat. Between his chest and abdomen, he suddenly felt warm, as if he was soaked in warmth, and the pain was greatly reduced. Gu Fei immediately operated his mysterious technique, guiding the medicinal power to the injured parts of his body. At the same time, the huge life force contained in his body was also released in the vibration of his muscles, bones, and flesh. The cracks on his sternum were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The clotted blood in his internal organs was also forced out of his pores by the cleansing of life force. From the beginning to the end, the purple mark between Gu Fei's eyebrows had been gently vibrating, releasing a vast amount of inner space energy that enveloped Gu Fei's body, isolating him from all the strange fluctuations that were produced when he circulated his energy to heal his injuries. Chapter 300. In an abandoned courtyard in the east of Hongyu City, Gu Fei sat cross-legged under a withered tree as he circulated his Xian Qi to heal his injured body. With his cultivation at the peak third sky of the Ascended Realm, he had trained his bones to the point that they were as tough as steel. He was strong enough to fight against magic treasures of cultivators at the same level as him. However, demonic cultivators at the 7th and 8th sky of the Ascended Realm were extremely powerful. They were at least 4 or 5 heavens higher than him. The current Gu Fei still couldn't fight against such a powerful opponent. The kick from the Zhao clan's older generation expert was so powerful that not only did it shatter his sternum, but it also penetrated his internal organs, causing his internal organs to be shaken violently. Under the tree, rays of spiritual light flowed on the surface of Gu Fei's body. This was the origin energy of a cultivator. It originated from the flesh and flowed out. The 5 elements resonated with each other. Gu Fei seemed to have escaped into the world around him. He didn't dare to connect with the world and use the power of the 5 elements to heal his injured body. This was because if he did, it would be easy for the experts in the city to sense the ripples of energy between heaven and earth. There was no lack of experts in Hongyu City. Those true experts could even sense the slightest ripple of energy in the air and find the source by following the ripple. This was also the reason why Gu Fei had to consume a spiritual herb. The purple mark between his eyebrows appeared, and the space energy within the inner space spread out like ripples of water from the vertical mark between his eyebrows. Under the cover of the power of the inner space, Gu Fei seemed to have jumped out of the 3 realms. Although he didn't enter the inner space, it was as if he was inside it. His aura and energy fluctuations were completely isolated, sealed in the void around him, unable to benefit in the slightest. Just now, he had used this ability to successfully ambush the elder from the Zhao family. Under the cover of the inner space, not to mention cultivators at the Ascended Realm, even those at the void-controlling realm who had a basic understanding of Tao wouldn't be able to sense Gu Fei's existence. This skill that came from Gu Fei's inner space was more useful and powerful than any concealment technique. This was a skill that only those who had opened up their own inner space could have. Gu Fei was not the kind of great divine ability that could open up an inner world. It had to be said that the fact that he could possess such a technique was a complete exception. Perhaps he was unique, an exception that had never been seen before or since. One had to say that Gu Fei's physique had reached an unbelievable level. 4 hours later, Gu Fei's cracked ribs had already healed. His internal injuries were all healed as well. Wave after wave of powerful energy washed through his flesh, blood, tendons, and bones, causing Gu Fei to feel as if he was cast from steel, giving off a powerful pressure. The medicinal power of the spirit grass was completely absorbed by his body and transformed into a huge amount of energy that was stored in his body. Looking inside himself, he could see that every inch of his flesh and blood, every piece of his muscles and bones, was emitting a faint 5-colored glow. His cultivation seemed to be purer than before he was injured. However, His cultivation didn't break through because of this. He was still at the peak of the third sky of the ascended realm. When can I break through to the fourth sky of the ascended realm? Gu Fei opened his eyes and stood up from under the tree. He habitually lifted his head to look at the sky, only to find that there was no starlight in the dark sky. He couldn't tell the time at all. If it was in the central plains, he could use the strength of the starlight and the position of the moon to tell the approximate time. However, in the extreme northern demon region, this method didn't work. In the extreme northern demon region, seeing the stars and the moon was a luxury. It's time to find some trouble for the Zhao family, Gu Fei muttered to himself. A sharp light flashed in his eyes and the entire deserted courtyard suddenly lit up. Then, Gu Fei's figure disappeared into the darkness. The deserted courtyard seemed so quiet and desolate in the darkness. The night wind blew, and the broken doors and windows made creaking sounds. In this dark night, it was especially creepy. After daybreak, the various demon sects in Hongyu City were in an uproar. Some people found high-leveled cultivators lying on the streets or dead in their residences. A demon master of the ascended realm from the Zhao family was killed in his residence. When his servant woke up in the morning, he found that the bedroom door was unlocked. The servant didn't dare to disturb the demon master and waited outside for half a day. However, the bedroom was very quiet. There was no sound at all, so the servant carefully walked into the bedroom. The scene in the bedroom almost made the servant faint. The demon master died a horrible death. His chest and abdomen were pierced through. His head was smashed by something, and the blood that splattered had already dried up. The experts of the Zhao family who received the news rushed over. After seeing the demon master's corpse, their faces became extremely ugly. They seemed to have seen something, but they didn't say anything. In the Meng family of Hongyu City, a demon master's corpse was lying on the street. There were only 2 wounds on his body, and they seemed to be caused by the finger force. One was on his forehead. His brain was shattered, and his head was pierced. The other was on his abdomen. Even the demon core in his abdomen was broken into thousands of pieces. The 2 wounds looked like they were burnt. There was not a drop of blood on the corpse or the ground. This overbearing finger force was very similar to the divine piercing finger force of the Zhao family. In Hongyu City, besides the Ming family, experts from other forces were also killed. There were only 2 wounds on their bodies. One was on their forehead and the other on their dantian. This is a conspiracy. Someone is framing my Zhao family. Zhao Shintong, the head of the Zhao family, roared in front of the higher-ups of the major forces who came to question him. Because even someone from the Ming family was suspected to have died under the divine piercing finger of the Zhao family, and the city lord of Hongyu City, Menglang, had personally come to the Zhao family to denounce them. In an instant, all the spearheads were pointed at the Zhao family. In Hongyu City, the Zhao family was a major demonic force second only to the Ming family. Not only was the Ming family afraid of the Zhao family, but the other demonic forces were also eager to take this opportunity to attack the Zhao family. There were even people who wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to bring down the Zhao family. The atmosphere in Hongyu City suddenly became tense. Even if the other forces in Hongyu City knew that someone was framing the Zhao family, they didn't plan to let the Zhao family go. This was especially true for the Ming family. The strength of the Zhao family threatened the Ming family's rule over Hongyu City. If the Ming family didn't have a super expert holding down the fort, the Zhao family would have taken action long ago. Even so, in the past few years, the Zhao family had gradually become restless. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that the Zhao family was eyeing the position of city lord of Hongyu City covetously. At this time, Gu Fei had changed his appearance again. He mingled in the city and observed the movements in the city. He knew that the Zhao family had to deal with the pressure from all sides and still couldn't send people to kill him. The city lord's mansion was the largest and most imposing building in Hongyu City. The city lord's mansion was located in the center of Hongyu City. It was like a city within a city, and it was formed by a group of magnificent buildings. In an inconspicuous courtyard in the city lord's mansion lived the most powerful person in the entire Hongyu City. However, this person wasn't the city lord of Hongyu City, Menglang. At this time, there were disputes everywhere in the city. However, the several major forces had been causing trouble in the Zhao family for an entire day, but no intense conflict had broken out. The major forces had vaguely formed a common front against the Zhao family. However, these people were loud like thunder, but there was no rain. To be able to survive in Hongyu City, the upper echelons of these forces were all shrewd. No one was willing to stand out. They all waved the flag and shouted, then watched from the side. The situation didn't develop as Gu Fei had expected. It was dusk again. The sun shone through the dusky sky, but it wasn't able to penetrate the dark sky and shine into the northern demon region. No one knew what caused such an abnormal phenomenon to appear in the northern demon region. Some people said that in order to understand why the northern demon region didn't see the light of day, they would have to trace it all the way back to when the northern demon region was formed. However, no one knew how the northern demon region was formed, and no one knew when the northern demon region had appeared. From the beginning of the written records, the northern demon region had already existed. No one knew what had happened in the distant ancient times. In the ordinary courtyard of the city lord's mansion of Hongyu City, an old man was lying on a rattan chair under a tree. He held a white jade wine pot in his hand, leisurely tasting the wine. The fragrance of the wine could be smelled from far away. This old man was thin and wore a purple robe. He had white hair and a youthful complexion. The bright red nose on his face was extremely conspicuous. This unprepossessing and somewhat wretched-looking old man was the old man who had gotten drunk on the 9th floor of the Red Moon restaurant yesterday. Just as the old man's eyes were slightly closed and he was gently rocking the rattan chair, enjoying the leisurely time, a red-faced man wearing a black robe and a purple crown on his head hurriedly walked in from outside. "What matter has made you so impatient?" The red-faced man walked closer. The old man's eyes were still slightly closed, but he had already opened his mouth to speak. There seemed to be a hint of reproach in his tone. "Father, I'm afraid you'll have to take action this time." The red-faced man wearing a purple gold crown stood respectfully beside the old man as he spoke. If anyone saw this scene, they would probably be so shocked that their jaws would drop to the ground. The middle-aged man wearing a purple gold crown and a face that seemed to be smeared with a layer of cinnabar was none other than the city lord of Hongyu City, Meng Lang. It was obvious who Meng Lang called his father. This somewhat wretched-looking old man who loved wine as much as his life was Meng Lang's father, the true ruler of Hongyu City, Meng Chongkong. Chapter 301. In another half a month, it would be the 500th birthday of the city lord's father, Meng Chongkong. It was precisely because of Meng Lang's father's existence that his position as the city lord was stable. Otherwise, how could Meng Lang, who was at the 9th layer of the void-controlling realm, suppress the other major forces in the city? "You want to make a move against the Zhao family?" Meng Chongkong was still as calm as ever. "Father, as long as you are willing to make a move." Meng Lang hesitated. "It is still not the time to make a move against the Zhao family. Let them cause trouble first. We will wait and see." Meng Chongkong seemed to be living a leisurely and carefree life in seclusion. However, he still knew everything that happened in the city like the back of his hand. Yes, although Meng Lang was unwilling, he had no choice but to accept Meng Chongkong's decision. Meng Chongkong was his father, so Meng Lang could not object to Meng Chongkong's decision. "All right, you may leave," Meng Chongkong said indifferently. From the beginning to the end, Meng Chongkong's eyes had never truly opened. It was as if he was talking about something insignificant. However, every word and every decision he made could cause earth-shattering changes in the city. If Meng Chongkong supported Meng Lang, the Devil Dao forces in the city would immediately be reshuffled. Meng Lang left the most inconspicuous courtyard in the city lord's mansion. No one knew that someone had just decided the fate of the Zhao family in this courtyard. As long as you were strong enough, you could control everything. You could control the life and death of those weaker than you, and even the destruction of a family. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Cause trouble, cause trouble. It seems like the city of the Red Moon hasn't been this lively in a long time. The little old man sitting on a rattan chair with his eyes closed gently rocked the chair as he murmured. The little old man looked somewhat wretched and had a rosacea nose. From his appearance, he looked like an ordinary old drunkard. No one would have thought that this little old man was the true ruler of the city of the Red Moon. As night fell, darkness once again enveloped the world. The night in the northern Devil region was even darker than the other places in the Tanglong continent. This referred to the darkness in the light, because there were no stars or moon in the sky, only cold and desolate. Gu Fei, who had changed his appearance, did not look for Chu Tian again, because at this time, there was definitely someone watching Chu Tian's every move. Last night, after he had fully recovered from his injuries, he killed a few transcending mortality stage demon cultivators. He even killed someone from the Ming clan. The hands of these demonic path cultivators were stained with endless blood. They had stepped over the corpses of others in order to reach their current cultivation and achievements. Gu Fei would not be lenient towards these demonic cultivators who exuded an incomparably intense killing intent and an incomparably evil aura. Exterminating them was the same as eliminating a scourge for the common people. Demons had always been the greatest enemy of the world. After nightfall, Gu Fei went to an ordinary restaurant in the east of the city. He ordered a few dishes and drank by himself while listening to the customers in the lobby talking loudly. What happened last night did not affect the lives of the ordinary people in the city at all. It was as if the matters of the city's cultivation world had nothing to do with these ordinary people. Gu Fei realized that the residents of Hongyu City were no different from the people of other places in the Tanglong continent. Cultivators and ordinary people were simply people of two different worlds. Gu Fei had already completely concealed his aura and completely suppressed the power in his body. In the eyes of outsiders, he was just an ordinary person. Changing his appearance was just another adjustment of his muscles, bones, and flesh. With his current cultivation, as long as he wanted to, he could change into any appearance. Moreover, this was not a disguise technique, nor was it an appearance created by magic. It was the movement of muscles, and no one could see through it. In this kind of small restaurant, it was impossible to find out anything about the cultivation world, because this was the circle of ordinary people. Even though there were cultivators around, the world of cultivators was too foreign to ordinary people. In front of powerful cultivators, ordinary people were too weak. They were not much stronger than ants. Cultivators did not need to pay attention to these ants. There was an insurmountable distance between them. However, compared to the cruelty of the cultivation world, the world of ordinary people made Gu Fei feel peaceful. It made him temporarily forget the bloodshed in the cultivation world. Gu Fei realized that he seemed to enjoy this temporary peace. This peace was rare, and it made Gu Fei's state of mind calm. The peaceful time was very short. As time passed, the lively small restaurant began to quiet down. When it was late at night, there was basically no one drinking or chatting in the restaurant. When the last few men, who were swaying from drinking and could barely walk, walked out of the restaurant holding each other's arms, Gu Fei knew that it was time to make a move. On the counter of the restaurant, a young waiter was lying on the counter looking at Gu Fei, who was still pouring and drinking by himself. The shopkeeper was tapping on the abacus, calculating the day's income. When the young waiter took a nap and raised his head, the last customer had disappeared. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Where did that guy go? The young waiter was taken aback. He had been staring at that customer for a long time, but when he was not paying attention, he did not know where that person had gone. That guy did not pay for the food and drinks. The young waiter wailed. That guy actually dared to eat and dash. My salary for this month is gone. That bastard. I'm so screwed over by you. Sure enough, the shopkeeper next to him stopped and scolded the young waiter. Kid, what are your eyes doing? You can't even look at a living person. That guy ate all night. I was afraid that he dared to eat and dash. Look, deduct the money for that guy's food and drinks from your salary. Boss, please don't. If you deduct it, I won't have money to eat next month. I have parents and a wife at home. A lot of people are waiting for my salary to eat. The waiter begged with tears and snot on his face. Go to hell, don't cry here. The shopkeeper kicked the young waiter out of the counter. Hurry up and clean up the dishes. Do you believe that I won't even deduct your salary for next month? The young waiter dejectedly walked towards the table where Gu Fei had just sat. When he approached, the young waiter suddenly noticed that other than the leftover food and drinks, there was also a piece of yellow paper on the table. He walked forward and took a look. How was this yellow paper? It was a gold note. Moreover, it was a gold note with a face value of 100 yuan. The young waiter's heart suddenly beat wildly. Gold note. The young waiter carefully turned his head to look at the shopkeeper behind the counter. "Stinking brat, do you have nothing to do with this? Hurry up and clean up that table. What are you still dilly-dallying for?" The shopkeeper yelled at him again. After yelling, the shopkeeper went back to calculating his accounts. This guy was simply Joe Papy. The young waiter cursed in his heart. Then, taking advantage of the fact that the shopkeeper surnamed Joe wasn't paying attention, he grabbed the 100 gold note on the table with lightning speed and put it into his sleeve. Deduct it, deduct it. Not to mention a month. Even if you deduct my salary for a year, it doesn't matter. The young waiter was ecstatic. He was so nervous that his whole body trembled. A 100 gold note was definitely a windfall for him. Damn, you're like a woman. Just a few words, and you're pissing your pants. At this time, shopkeeper Joe raised his head and saw the young waiter slightly twitching back. He thought that the young waiter was crying because of his scolding. There weren't many people on the street. Occasionally, he would see someone, but those people would just pass by in a hurry. Lanterns hung on both sides of the street. The dim yellow light illuminated the street. As Gu Fei walked on the street, he only felt the cool and cold wind constantly brushing against his face, making him feel refreshed. Since the fire isn't strong enough, then let it burn a bit more, Gu Fei murmured. Then, with a schwa sound, he took a step forward and instantly disappeared from the deserted street. He wanted to fan the flames and cause complete chaos in Crimson Moon City. Crimson Moon City's Zhao family, in a manor in the east of the city, was still brightly lit. From time to time, one could see that in the dark corners of the flowers and trees in the manor, there were figures silently passing by. This place was heavily guarded, as if facing a great enemy. Although Zhao was a direct descendant of the Zhao family, because he had been unable to break through to the Demon Master realm, he had never been valued by the family. It wasn't until his cultivation had recently broken through to the Demon Master realm that he once again entered the eyes of the family's upper echelons. He was sent to the east of the city to be in charge of the family's business. The east of the city wasn't the Zhao family's sphere of influence. Because of the assassination that shocked the entire cultivation world of Crimson Moon City last night, all the major forces in the city were pointing their spears at the Zhao family. This made Zhao, who was on the periphery of the Zhao family's power, very uneasy. Zhao transferred all the manpower that could be mobilized to the manor to protect himself. He also invited his uncle, a demon master of the sixth heaven, to sit in the manor. He arranged for his uncle to stay next to him. Zhao was undoubtedly very afraid of death. It wasn't easy for him to have the day to make a name for himself. He hadn't had the chance to show off his skills and realize his ambitions. Of course, he didn't want to die. With a demon master of the sixth heaven, Zhao was relieved. However, he never thought that even though his manor was heavily guarded, and there was a demon master of the sixth heaven next door, someone would still silently appear outside his door. The intruder was like a ghost, suddenly appearing outside his door. Without a sound, he directly broke open his door and strode in. Who was so bold as to dare break into the Zhao family's place? At the moment when the person smashed the door, an angry shout came from the next room. Then, with a bang, someone directly smashed the door and rushed out of the next room. Chapter 302. A hazy demonic shadow silently broke into a manor of the Zhao family in the east of the city. All the sentries in the manor were useless. No one noticed the figure shrouded in thick, demonic qi. That person appeared directly outside the door of the manor's owner, Zhao Hai's room. Suddenly, he smashed the door and strode in. Just as that person broke into Zhao Hai's room, the room next to Zhao Hai's room suddenly erupted with a terrifying and evil aura. A person rushed out with a roar. Die! The expert that rushed out of the room directly attacked the person that broke into Zhao Hai's room. The expert raised his hand as a demon dragon rushed out. Then the demon dragon charged towards Zhao Hai, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. There was no superfluous words. In this critical period, anyone who broke in must be killed. Oomph! That person sneered. He didn't turn around, but waved his hand behind him. A mass of demonic qi immediately rushed out to meet the demonic dragon. Within the demonic qi, there was a powerful fluctuation that made people's hearts palpitate. Vaguely, one could see a fist-sized demonic stone smashing into the dragon's ferocious head. Pung! The demonic stone directly smashed the dragon's head, turning it into a mass of demonic chi and dissipating into the void. Moreover, the demonic stone didn't stop. The dragon's head exploded, and the dragon's body was smashed into a mass of turbulent demonic chi. The expert of the Zhao clan, who was at the 6th layer of the Devil Master, was shocked. The fist-sized devil stone seemed to possess an unstoppable power. After destroying the demonic dragon, it was still like an ancient demonic mountain, emitting endless demonic energy as it flew towards him. He felt danger. Without any hesitation, he turned into a demonic shadow and quickly retreated. At this time, in Zhao Hai's room, there was a scream of despair and unwillingness. Then, with a bang, the whole room suddenly exploded. The terrifying power shook the heavens and the earth. Dust flew high into the sky. The incomparably hard bricks melted like ice and snow, turning into dust and floating in the void. The mighty energy directly destroyed everything within a radius of 20 feet. It was as terrifying as the end of the world. The Zhao family members in the manor cried out in alarm and scattered to avoid the flying bricks and tiles. Those unlucky Zhao family members couldn't dodge in time and were directly pierced by the flying bricks and tiles, dying on the spot. Those who hadn't broken into the Demon Master realm didn't have a demonic core condensed from demonic energy. Although they were stronger than ordinary people, if they were fatally injured, they would still die. Zhao Hai, the 6th heavenly layer Demon Master, roared. Even with his cultivation, he was sent flying dozens of feet away by this sudden burst of violent energy. His clothes were torn and tattered, and he looked like a beggar. He was in a sorry state. If he guessed correctly, Zhao Hai's demonic core had been broken by someone. Moreover, that person not only broke Zhao Hai's demonic core, but also drew out the power of the demonic core, causing it to explode. An expert, definitely an expert. While Zhao Hai's uncle was pained by Zhao Hai's death, he was also secretly shocked. The opponent's cultivation seemed to be higher than his own. However, after killing Zhao Hai, that person took back the magic stone and disappeared into the night. That person seemed to have come to kill Zhao Hai. That magic stone, could it be him? After Zhao Hai's uncle calmed down, he seemed to think of something. His face immediately turned gloomy. Among the demon masters, there was only one person who used a magic stone as a weapon. It was the stone demon of the Hexagon Demon Palace. All of this, could it be a plot by the Hexagon Demon Palace? Thinking of this, Zhao Hai's uncle couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Then he hurriedly left. He had to immediately report this important discovery to the upper echelons of the family. From all the signs, it seemed that the Hexagon Demon Palace really was behind this, sowing dissension and causing conflict between the major powers of Crimson Moon City. This was a method to weaken Crimson Moon City's strength. Several powerful divine senses swept over the manor in the east of the city. The experts in the city had already noticed that something was wrong. Soon, several figures appeared in the sky above the manor. However, the terrifying figures standing in the void did not linger for long. Soon after, they left in different directions. No one knew that there was a wretched, red-nosed old man in a dark cloud high up in the sky. He had seen everything from start to finish. Even the powerful demon Dao cultivators who appeared in the sky above the manor didn't notice anything strange in the sky. Interesting. Why did that kid want to kill a demon master from the Zhao family who had just entered the demon master realm? The wretched, red-nosed old man muttered to himself. Then, as if he had teleported, he suddenly disappeared in the sky. After killing Zhao Hai, Gu Fei had wanted to kill the demon master at the 6th heaven as well. However, after killing Zhao Hai, he felt an inexplicable sense of trepidation. Therefore, he didn't hesitate and immediately retreated. What he didn't know was that no matter how well he hid it, even if he only used the demon Dao treasures he had obtained from the demon Dao cultivators he had killed, he was still being watched. Gu Fei didn't stop. He wanted to burn this fire in Crimson Moon City. Therefore, he decisively moved on to his next target. During the day, he had already locked on to the people he wanted to deal with. Zhao Hai, who was in the east of the city, was one. His next target was in the west of Crimson Moon City. Crimson Moon City, Heaven Desire Palace, was a place like the palace of an emperor. There were many palaces, and it was brightly lit 24 hours a day. This was a gentle place with the most beautiful women in Crimson Moon City. This was a money-squandering den. In order to get intimate with a woman, one would spend 1,000 gold. This place had the most fragrant wine and the most delicious delicacies. As long as you have a large amount of money, you can do whatever you want in this free and unfettered land, happy and unfettered. Gu Fei quietly stood on top of a magnificent palace, coldly scanning the richly ornamented pavilion in front of him. Inside the pavilion, the lights were brightly lit. There was light singing and dancing inside, and the melodious sound of bamboo and string instruments could be heard. Above was the dark night sky that made one's heart palpitate, and below was the mortal world of material desires. Gu Fei's heart was calm. His body was in the mortal world, but his heart was incomparably empty. On the path of martial arts, one not only had to train the body, but also the mind. Great power needed to be controlled by the corresponding state of mind. In the mortal world, sometimes one had to do as one pleased, and ignore all obstacles and restraints. Sometimes one had to coldly look at all things in the world and observe the various states of life. Come out of the world, enter the world, train the body, cultivate the mind, advance bravely, and advance courageously. Gu Fei had already adjusted the strength of his body to its peak state. Shua. He took a step forward, leaving behind an afterimage in the night sky. Without a sound, he stepped into the opposite pavilion. A thick devil chi enveloped Gu Fei's body, causing his figure to become blurry. The devil chi originated from a devil core, which was taken from the owner of the devil stone. The power contained within the devil core was guided out by Gu Fei, completely concealing his aura. Without any hesitation, he strode forward. Stop! A low shout came from the pavilion, and the melodious music immediately stopped. The beautiful women who were singing and dancing in the pavilion also stopped their graceful dance. At this moment, Guoqian had unbuttoned his shirt and was drinking wine by himself with one arm around a beautiful woman. His bronze-colored, robust body seemed to be coiled by numerous dragons. He was strong and powerful, filled with explosive power. His skin seemed to be flowing with a layer of precious splendor. This was a wild young man with a pair of beast-like eyes that flickered with a light that made people's hearts palpitate. He glanced outside the hall and said in a deep voice, "Who is it? Since you are here, come in." Gu Fei pushed the door open and entered, calmly walking to the center of the hall. His eyes were as sharp as a knife, directly piercing through the thick devil chi and staring straight at Guoqian. "Guo family, Guo 6th," Gu Fei said coldly. This wild young man in front of him was Gu Fei's second target. Guoqian, he was ranked 6th in the family, but he hated it when people called him 6th Guo because it was a look of contempt for him. Guo 6th glanced coldly at Gu Fei, and the temperature in the pavilion began to plummet. The beautiful women in the pavilion were so frightened that they couldn't stop shivering. Guo Laolu pushed away the glamorous woman next to him, stood up, and looked down at Gu Fei as he said, "What a sneaky guy. You were the one who killed those trash last night, weren't you?" Guoqian immediately thought of what had happened last night. "A dead man doesn't need to know so much," Gu Fei said in a low voice. Haha. Guo 6th was so angry that he laughed, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Then his expression turned cold. "Even Meng Hao wouldn't dare to be presumptuous in front of me. Is that so?" Gu Fei laughed coldly, his words revealing deep disdain for Guo 6th. Preposterous. Guo 6th was enraged, and an incomparably powerful wave of energy suddenly exploded from his body. He looked disdainfully at the world and disdainfully at the same level as him. "Go to hell." Gu Fei said no more and directly punched forward. Terrifying demonic chi surged forward like a black wave, and the floor under his feet immediately burst open. The wild Guo Lao's temperament was somewhat similar to Gu Fei's. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind as a terrifying battle intent erupted in an instant. "Good," he said coldly. "Killing an opponent like you is not a disgrace to my fists." Having said that, he kicked away the long table in front of him, took a step forward, and directly punched forward. He spoke with his strength. At this time, the beautiful women in the pavilion had already sensed that something was wrong, and they dodged. In the huge hall, only Gu Fei and Gua Sixth were left. Boom! Two surging demonic chi instantly collided. Two fists surrounded by demonic chi collided violently in the midst of the demonic chi, and the entire pavilion immediately shook violently. The two demonic shadows quickly separated like black lightning, and then instantly collided again. Boom! The entire pavilion suddenly exploded, and the rubble scattered in all directions. Amidst the flying rubble and debris, two figures soared into the sky. Chapter 303. Bam! Bang! Boom! Two demonic shadows moved swiftly in the air like two bolts of black lightning, colliding and clashing. The two hadn't even used any magical powers yet. It was a pure clash of brute force. Roar! Roar! Gu Fei, Gua Chun, and Old Sixth of the Gua family roared at the same time. Gu Fei's fist landed on Old Sixth Gua's shoulder, while Old Sixth Gua's palm was aimed at Gu Fei's lower abdomen. However, Gu Fei's fist landed solidly on Old Sixth Gua, while Old Sixth Gua's palm was met by Gu Fei's knee. Bam! Bang! The sound of fist colliding with flesh and the explosive sound of the knee and palm colliding rang out at almost the same time. The two figures were sent flying backward in the air. Gu Fei landed on top of a pavilion. His cold gaze pierced through the thick, pitch-black demonic aura and swept over Gua Chun, who was sent flying backward. He saw that Old Sixth Gua was sent flying 300 feet away by Gu Fei's punch. He crashed into a pavilion before he could stop himself from flying backward. Both of them were equally powerful and could exchange blows in the air for a short period of time. However, it was obvious that Old Sixth Gua was no match for Gu Fei in a physical confrontation with Gu Fei. Damn it, I misjudged. At this moment, Gu Fei felt that something was amiss. Gualalio's cultivation was not weak, and his physique was also extremely tough. Ending the battle quickly, Gu Fei pushed off with both feet, and the pavilion beneath his feet immediately exploded. Then, Gu Fei took a step forward in the air. With just one step, he appeared above Old Sixth Gua's head as if he had teleported. Amidst the roiling demonic aura, a pitch-black foot stomped down on Old Sixth Gua. A terrifying force field sealed off the space beneath its feet. As the foot landed, the space beneath it immediately trembled. Damn it! Endless pressure descended from the sky, acting on Old Sixth Gua's body. With a crack, the ground beneath his feet exploded. The foot above his head was like a primordial demonic mountain crushing down on him. At this moment, Old Sixth Gua could no longer remain calm. Roar! Old Sixth Gua roared at the sky. His eldest son was incomparably ferocious. In an instant, his eyes turned pitch black, emitting two frightening rays of black light. A monstrous evil aura erupted from Old Sixth Gua's body, as if a terrible demon had awakened within him. Then, a huge, illusory figure emerged from Gualalio's body. The demonic figure was indomitable. Although it wasn't a real person made of flesh and blood, the aura of a powerhouse that looked down on the world was not fake. Old Sixth Gua's right fist blasted toward the foot that was descending. The giant's demonic figure moved in unison and spun off its fist upward. Boom! The illusory giant fist collided with the mighty force of the unparalleled leg. A terrifying force erupted, shaking the heavens and the earth. The giant demonic figure that emerged from Old Sixth Gua's body seemed to be howling and roaring, but it didn't make any sound. The demonic figure collapsed, and Old Sixth Gua was half buried in the ground. He coughed up large mouthfuls of blood, and the ground beneath his feet was shaken into dust. Gu Fei didn't fare well either. He was punched into the air by the giant demonic figure that emerged from Gua Chen's body, and a trace of blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. Gu Fei was stronger than Gua Chun and could suppress him, but it would not be easy for him to kill the sixth son of the Gua family. Gu Fei could already tell that the terrifying demonic figure was very similar to the demonic soul released by the demon master he killed outside Crimson Moon City. Could it be that the demon master he killed in the forest outside Crimson Moon City had something to do with the Gua family? At this time, The confrontation between Gu Fei and Old Sixth Gua had alarmed many people. Several incomparably powerful divine wills emerged from all over the western part of the city, sweeping toward Heaven Desire Palace. Gu Fei knew that if his attack didn't succeed, he wouldn't have time to launch another attack, because the experts in the city would arrive soon. Gu Fei had no choice but to stride in the void, leaving behind a series of afterimages in the void as he pounced towards the densely packed houses below. Hiding in the dark corners of the streets and alleys, no one could find Gu Fei. Just as Gu Fei left, a person shrouded in demonic aura appeared in the sky above Heaven Desire Palace. His powerful divine will spread out, covering a radius of more than 10 kilometers in an instant. This was a demonic cultivator of the void-controlling realm at the level of a demon general. How is this possible? A shocked voice came from within the demonic aura. This was because the demon general realized that within the range of his divine wills, he couldn't find any trace of the person who had just fought with Old Sixth Gua. At this time, a few more demonic figures suddenly appeared in the sky above Heaven Desire Palace. The few demon generals flying in the void also couldn't find any trace of Gu Fei. Gualaolu crawled up from the ground. He realized that he had been defeated by that mysterious person. This made Gualaolu go mad with anger. In fact, the #1 expert among the younger generation of Crimson Moon City was not the son of the city lord, but Gua Old Sixth Gua of the Gua family. The Gua family's soul refining technique could be said to be a strange demonic cultivation method. It could be used to summon a powerful demonic soul and quickly increase one's strength. However, even after summoning the demonic soul, Old Sixth Gua still couldn't fight against Gu Fei. Old Gualu roared in the air, but reality was reality. His defeat was his defeat. A faint, illusory demonic shadow appeared from his body once more. The demon generals in the sky above Heaven Desire Palace whispered to each other, then flew in different directions. They didn't believe that person could escape from under their noses. As long as they found that person, they would know who was behind this. At this time, the spatial energy of Gu Fei's inner space blocked the aura on his body. He did not go far, but sat cross-legged in a dark corner. The devil core in his hand had already become dim. When he fought with Old Sixth Gua just now, he had drawn out a large amount of demonic energy. Almost half of the demonic energy in the devil core had been consumed. Because the owner of the devil core had been killed by Gu Fei, the demonic energy in the devil core could not be replenished after it was used up. If this went on, after using it a few more times, the magic energy contained in this devil core would be exhausted. After putting away the devil core, Gu Fei channeled the power of space with all his might. He wanted to enter the inner space to lie low until the wind blew over. He didn't expect that the dissipated Old Sixth Gua was actually a hidden expert. He had miscalculated. No matter when or under any circumstances, he couldn't underestimate his opponent. Gu Fei couldn't kill Old Sixth Gua with overwhelming strength and almost put himself in danger. The power of the inner space continued to flow out from the vertical purple mark on Gu Fei's forehead. Soon, Gu Fei's figure completely disappeared in the void. He had entered the inner space that he had opened up. As his cultivation continued to increase, Gu Fei's inner space continued to expand. The diameter of the inner space was now about 1 or 2 meters. Moreover, the yellow sand under his feet was gradually turning into soil, becoming suitable for the growth of plants. If Gu Fei was able to find a spiritual spring and move it into the inner space, this place would definitely be filled with greenery and be suitable for the growth of plants and animals. It would become a rare abode. Just as Gu Fei disappeared in the void and entered the inner space, in an inconspicuous courtyard in the city lord's mansion, the red-nosed old man who was lying on a rattan chair under a tree suddenly opened his eyes. Disappeared? How is this possible? Could it be that those old farts secretly made a move? Otherwise, why would he suddenly disappear? The wretched red-nosed old man was also a little nervous at this moment. He had planted a trace of a spiritual mark on Gu Fei's body. As long as Gu Fei was still in the Red Moon City, or even in this world, he wouldn't be able to escape from his grasp. However, Gu Fei had disappeared. His disappearance was so abrupt and without any warning. The wretched red-nosed old man was the father of the Red Moon City's city lord, Meng Chongkong. When Gu Fei killed Zhao Hai, Meng Chongkong had secretly left a spiritual mark on Gu Fei's body. Then, this Meng Chongkong had returned to the city lord's mansion. A spiritual mark was a peculiar existence. Whether it was thousands of miles away or within an aura-isolating formation, as long as the person was still in this world, the person who left the spiritual mark would be able to sense it. However, Gu Fei had entered his own inner space, which was equivalent to entering another world. No matter how high Meng Chongkong's cultivation was, he couldn't sense the fluctuations of the spiritual mark that he had left on Gu Fei's body. If those old farts really come to the Red Moon City, then it will be troublesome. Meng Chongkong's expression became incomparably solemn. Then, he suddenly soared into the sky and arrived above the Red Moon City in an instant. His powerful divine sense spread out in all directions. Soon, the entire Red Moon City was enveloped by Meng Chongkong's divine sense. At this moment, all the demonic cultivators in the city who were above the void-controlling realm felt an extremely powerful pressure from the void. It was as if there was a pair of terrifying eyes staring at them from the void. All the demonic cultivators in the Red Moon City who had the cultivation of a demonic general felt a dangerous aura at this moment, causing them to tremble with fear. They knew that there was a peerless demonic figure using his divine sense to scan the entire Red Moon City. Such a peerless expert was an existence that they could only look up to. Could it be that I guessed wrong? Meng Chongkong muttered to himself as he retracted his terrifying divine sense. He didn't sense the aura of an expert at the same level as him in the Red Moon City. This made Meng Chongkong secretly heave a sigh of relief. In the next moment, Meng Chongkong's petite figure disappeared high up in the sky. What Gu Fei didn't know was that his sudden disappearance had startled the true ruler of the Red Moon City, causing him to think that a peerless expert was going against him. Let me recommend my friend's books, Indestructible Golden Body and Legend Equal to the Heavens. Those who like fantasy should go and take a look. Chapter 304. Gu Fei sat cross-legged in the inner space and used his heart to feel the pulse of this space. He had a strange feeling, as if he had melted into this space and become a part of it. His mind spread throughout the entire space. He did not need to see with his naked eyes to clearly sense everything in this space. A grain of sand, a speck of dust, and even the air in the void that could not be seen with the naked eye could be clearly seen by him. It was as if he had become a part of this space. He could control everything in this space, and the power of heaven and earth was at his command. In this place, it seemed that as long as he wanted to, he could tear the void and collapse the world with a single thought. He was the ruler of this space, and the absolute ruler at that. If he fought in this space, and someone was swallowed into this space, the result could be imagined. However, Gu Fei did not have the ability to swallow a living person into the space for the time being. Even if he wanted to enter this space, he would have to prepare and spend some time. If it was an enemy, they would definitely not stand still and let Gu Fei swallow them into the space. Gu Fei's mind withdrew from the spiritual realm and opened his eyes. The first thing he had to do was to take inventory of the items in his storage bag and then organize them. In this short period of time, he had killed many practitioners of the same level and obtained a lot of spoils of war. In addition to the 3 9-colored longevity grass, there was also a 9-leaf ginseng. The 9-colored longevity grass and the 9-leaf ginseng were the 2 best spirit materials of heaven and earth among the dozen or so treasures of heaven and earth. They also contained the largest amount of grass and with spiritual energy. With Gu Fei's status in the Taishan sect, it was difficult for him to know the magical uses and effects of the 9-colored longevity grass. Only the higher-ups of the 3 great Taoist sects, or some old monsters on the Tanglong continent, knew about the existence of this heaven-defying spirit material of heaven and earth. However, Gu Fei knew about the 9-leaf ginseng. He had seen the description of this spirit material in the ancient books of the sect. This kind of spirit material grew 1 leaf every 1,000 years. From the 1st leaf to the 9th leaf, it would take 10,000 years. Even if it was an ordinary spirit herb, after growing for more than 10,000 years, even if it didn't develop intelligence and became a plant spirit, it would still be a rare spirit herb of heaven and earth. Gu Fei knew that if he consumed the 9-leaf profound ginseng, he might be able to break through his current cultivation bottleneck with the help of its spiritual effects. However, he would not do that. He felt that even if he did not consume the 9-leaf mysterious ginseng, he would be able to break through his current bottleneck in the near future. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not want to waste such a rare heaven and earth spirit herb. Heaven and earth spirit herbs were very rare, and a 10,000-year-old heaven and earth spirit herb was even rarer. Moreover, it took a long time to grow a heaven and earth spirit herb. Gu Fei put away the 9-colored longevity grass and 9-leaf mysterious ginseng, then divided the remaining heavenly resources into 2 portions. One portion was stored in his magic treasure pouch, and the other was planted in his inner space. The soil in the inner space was already suitable for the growth of plants. 5 or 6 spirit herbs were planted in the soil, and each branch and leaf had traces of spiritual energy flowing on it. That was the essence of plants. The hazy spiritual energy lingered around each spirit herb, causing the entire inner space to have a trace of vitality out of nowhere. After dealing with the matter of the spirit herbs, Gu Fei sorted out the other things in the magic treasure pouch. A large pile of refining materials was placed in a corner of the magic treasure pouch. He did not know how to refine weapons, and he did not want to waste time to do so. This was because his body was the best magic treasure. The ready-made magic treasures were a small sword surrounded by demonic energy, a demonic stone, and a demonic pill. These 3 items could be said to be incomparably precious to a demonic cultivator. Even a transcending mortality realm demonic master would be envious of them. However, for Gu Fei, these things were of little value. It would be a pity to throw them away, but it was tasteless. If he had not broken into the transcending mortality realm and could sense the heaven and earth and guide the demonic energy contained in these demonic magic treasures and demonic pills, these 3 items would be 3 useless pieces of trash. When he was in the Taishan sect, the Dao talisman that he had obtained from Wang Yuanji was no longer of interest to Gu Fei. That talisman? Although it could release a powerful attack of the transcending mortality realm and could sweep away cultivators of the awakening mortality realm, it was useless against cultivators of the transcending mortality realm. However, it was useless against cultivators in the transcending mortality realm. The most it could do was create some trouble for them. It was impossible to injure them. Only then did Gu Fei realize that he was completely poor. There were not many magic treasures that he could use, and they were all consumables. These demonic magic treasures had not reached the stage where they could gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and Gu Fei was not a demonic cultivator, so he could not pour demonic energy into these demonic magic treasures. When the demonic energy contained in these demonic magic treasures was exhausted by Gu Fei, these magic treasures would become useless pieces of trash. Only the nameless sword spirit in his body was Gu Fei's real killing weapon. The mountain river cauldron in the chaotic zone. I wonder if I can communicate with this treasure with my current strength. In the chaotic zone outside the inner space, there were 2 other treasures. However, Gu Fei was a little helpless towards these 2 treasures. The mountain river cauldron was a complete treasure, and it could nurture a chaotic nascent embryo, which was a heaven-defying item. The other treasure was the yin-yang jade pendant, but it had an owner. There was a mysterious remnant soul in the yin-yang jade pendant, and this remnant soul had its own intelligence. After greeting Gu Fei, it sealed itself in the jade pendant and went to rebuild its body. The mountain river cauldron. Gu Fei stared at the chaotic zone, and he saw a treasure cauldron faintly discernible in the gray chaotic qi. If he looked closely, he could see that there were traces of chaotic qi constantly entering the body of the cauldron. A treasure with a soul could gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It was no longer an inanimate object, and it could rely on its instincts to increase its strength and evolve to a higher level. Gu Fei wanted to communicate with the treasure cauldron in the chaotic zone, and then gradually control it. Therefore, he sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and adjusted his qi. When his body and mind reached their peak condition, Gu Fei carefully released his divine sense towards the mountain river cauldron in the chaotic zone. The chaotic qi in the chaotic zone was very unstable, and the moment Gu Fei's divine sense entered the chaotic zone, his body shook and his face became solemn. The chaotic energy was weakening his divine sense, and his mind was under attack. Gu Fei's divine sense advanced with difficulty in the chaotic zone, and with his peak third sky of the ascended realm cultivation, his powerful divine sense stopped after entering 20 to 30 feet into the chaotic zone. He had no choice but to stop. Gu Fei had already used all his strength, and if he advanced any further, Gu Fei's divine sense might be in danger of being destroyed by the chaotic energy. At this moment, Gu Fei's divine sense was only 30 to 40 feet away from the mountain river cauldron. Gu Fei didn't intend to give up. He retracted his divine sense and used a large amount of yuan qi to nourish it. When his divine sense recovered, Gu Fei continued. Again and again, after being refined by the chaotic energy, Gu Fei's divine sense became more condensed and stronger. He was refining the spirit, essence, qi, spirit. These were the three treasures of humans and even beasts. Gu Fei's martial path focused on the cultivation of essence and qi in the early stages. As for cultivators, demonic cultivators, and beast cultivators, most of them focused on cultivating that spirit, refining essence into qi, refining qi into spirit, and then refining spirit back into the void. The essence and qi they cultivated were all to prepare for the spirit transformation. They firmly believed that as long as their soul wasn't destroyed, they would be able to transcend reincarnation and live forever. However, martial Tao cultivation methods were different. Martial artists cultivated essence and qi, but they used essence and qi to temper the martial body, causing the martial body to continuously sublimate and transform. The endless nourishment of essence and qi allowed the martial body to embark on an indestructible path. The indestructible martialist body was formed in this way. Even if the martial experts who cultivated the indestructible martialist body died, their bodies would still be immortal, and their essence and qi would exist forever. Their bodies still possessed incomparably powerful strength. If a demonic person who knew how to refine corpses obtained an indestructible martialist body, then this indestructible body would become a terrifying killing machine. However, although the martial path focused on cultivating essence and qi, they also cultivated the spirit. However, the martial path cultivation method was different from that of cultivators. They directly condensed their soul so that the wheel of life wouldn't be destroyed. Compared to cultivators who refined Tao pills, formed Tao nascent soul, and reversed the void and merged with the Tao, it seemed to be higher. The spirit of a martialist reached the source of life, so that the imprint of life wouldn't be destroyed. The more solidified the divine sense, the stronger it was, and the more stable and solid the soul would be. Time passed silently, but in Gu Fei's inner space, he didn't seem to feel the passage of time. Before he knew it, half a year had passed. Gu Fei was still sitting cross-legged in the inner space like a stone statue. His body was already covered in a layer of dust. Not far from him, the 5 or 6 spirit extracts on the ground were emitting a fragrant scent of plants. Vaguely, one could see rays of light curling around them. It was unknown whether it was because of the spiritual energy of plants that the spirit extracts emitted, or if Gu Fei's space had really given birth to life, but a small patch of grass had actually grown around the 5 or 6 spirit extracts. Even Gu Fei didn't expect that he would sit there for half a year. His mind was completely immersed in that spirit refinement. He failed again and continued again and again. The primal chaos energy had refined his divine sense to an incomparably pure level, and his soul had also gradually become stronger. Only a strong soul could make the fire of life even more vigorous. He didn't know how many times he had failed. 100,000 times? 200,000 times? Gu Fei couldn't remember, but he persevered. Every time he failed, he would immediately nourish his soul, recover his consumed divine sense, and attack again. On this day, a rumbling sound came from the primal chaos zone. A sound that sounded like muffled thunder rang out. A huge cauldron began to shake, releasing a vast and mighty aura that caused the already chaotic primal chaos energy to surge. Gu Fei's inner space was also affected. It shook violently, and the edge of the space seemed to show signs of returning to the primal chaos. Chapter 305. In the chaotic zone, a treasured cauldron was emitting powerful energy waves. On the ancient cauldron, the countless ancient beasts seemed to be coming to life, emitting a misty glow. And those were the beast souls of the mountain and river cauldron. The countless beast souls seemed to be awakening, and the mountain and river cauldron was emitting a terrifying, murderous aura. The chaotic void around the mountain and river cauldron was boiling, and within the chaotic void, the chaotic chi was surging violently. Success. At this moment, the entire inner space shook violently. Gu Fei's body shook violently, and the layer of dust on his body was instantly blown away by the dazzling radiance. The reason why the mountain and river cauldron reacted was because Gu Fei had finally used his divine sense to envelop the mountain and river cauldron. However, the mountain and river cauldron was as heavy as an ancient sacred mountain. Even though it was enveloped by Gu Fei's divine sense, it was difficult to guide it into the inner space. What Gu Fei needed to do now was to use his divine sense to communicate with the mountain and river cauldron, and use his divine sense to probe into the mountain and river cauldron to merge with it. With Gu Fei's current cultivation, it was definitely difficult to truly refine the mountain and river cauldron. However, he did not want to refine the mountain and river cauldron into his own magical weapon, because Gu Fei was very clear that with his current cultivation, it would be difficult to do so. He only wanted to move the mountain and river cauldron into the inner space. The mountain and river cauldron could suppress the mountains and rivers, so with the mountain and river cauldron to suppress the inner space, Gu Fei would not need to worry about the inner space collapsing. Although Gu Fei's divine sense enveloped the mountain and river cauldron and caused it to shake, the mountain and river cauldron was as heavy as an ancient sacred mountain, and it was difficult to move it. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. Gu Fei only did one thing every day, and that was to concentrate on refining the mountain and river cauldron. The mountain-river cauldron was indeed a rare sacred weapon. Gu Fei refined it continuously for 2 months before his spiritual will broke through the seal of the beast soul and came into contact with the mountain-river cauldron. In the blink of an eye, another 4 months had passed. The mountain and river cauldron finally moved, but it was very slow. Even so, Gu Fei was so happy that he almost jumped up from the ground. Network A. The mountain and river cauldron was successfully activated. Rumble. The unadorned yet huge cauldron slowly moved towards the inner space. Primal chaos energy surged around the cauldron. Wisps of chaotic energy continued to seep into the mountain and river cauldron. Inside the inner space, there was no heaven or earth, no sun or moon. Before he knew it, Gu Fei had already been in the inner space for more than a year. Cultivation knows no time. This phrase described how hard cultivators cultivated, to the point that they forgot about time. Gu Fei was still sitting cross-legged on the ground, as if he did not feel the passage of time. He was still guiding the mountain and river cauldron into the inner space bit by bit. Crimson Moon City was the same as before. Ordinary people lived peaceful lives, but those who truly controlled the fate of Crimson Moon City were still scheming against each other. It was dusk again. Dusk in the extreme northern demon territory was always so cold. A cold wind blew through the streets. Besides a few wisps of dust, there seemed to be nothing else. When night fell, in a remote alley in the western part of Crimson Moon City, in a dark corner, transparent ripples spread out. It was as if the void had turned into ripples of water. Then, the void shattered and a figure walked out from the shattered void. The Crimson Moon House was still as lively as ever. The young nobles of the city, as well as some famous demonic cultivators, all gathered in the Crimson Moon House, talking loudly. There were no longer many people on the streets. A young noble in brocade robes was walking straight towards the Crimson Moon House with a servant. This young noble had delicate features and was a handsome young master. However, his slightly pale face and lifeless eyes showed that this dignified young noble had been hollowed out by wine and women. "Lu Quan, hurry up and follow me. I want to have a good time tonight. Let's go to the Crimson Moon House first, then to the Heaven Desire Palace," the young noble urged. The young noble's servant was a 17 or 18-year-old young man dressed in a green gown. "Network, yes, yes." The young man in the green gown replied repeatedly and followed closely behind the young noble. However, just as they passed by a street corner, a figure suddenly walked out from a dark corner and blocked their way. "Where are you in a hurry to go?" the person asked. "Who are you, and where we are going has nothing to do with you." The young noble looked disdainfully at the person who suddenly walked out from the side with an arrogant expression. How is it none of your business? Because I also want to go to the Crimson Moon House, the person said again. With the light from the lanterns hanging high on both sides of the street, one could see that this person was short and had an ordinary appearance. You go to hell, I'll go to hell. A good dog doesn't block the way, get out of the way. Seeing that the person actually stood in front of him and blocked his path, the noble young master was immediately displeased. If I go, you won't be able to go. Gu Fei grinned and looked at the young noble with interest. What? When the young noble heard this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. At this moment, Gu Fei directly grabbed the young noble with one hand. Without any suspense, Gu Fei easily knocked out the master and servant. Then, he dragged them into a small alley with each hand. After searching the young noble's jade identification card, Gu Fei stuffed the master and servant's mouths with clothes, tied them up, and threw them into a dark corner of the alley. This was to prevent them from escaping when they woke up. After doing all this, Gu Fei tidied up his clothes, walked out of the alley, and went straight to the Crimson Moon House. In a private room on the 8th floor, Gu Fei ordered a few side dishes and drank by himself. The reason he had come here was to find out the situation in the Crimson Moon City. The Crimson Moon House could be said to be the place with the most information in the entire Crimson Moon City. He had already successfully moved the mountain and river cauldron from the chaotic zone into the inner space. Furthermore, before he came out of the inner space, his extremely powerful mind sensed a strange fluctuation in his body. It was a trace of mind fluctuation. Although it was very weak and indistinct, he still managed to catch it. When Gu Fei caught this trace of mind fluctuation, his clothes were instantly drenched in cold sweat. It turned out that someone had tampered with his body at some point in time. As soon as he left the inner space, he was afraid that the person who had tampered with his body would immediately find him. However, just as Gu Fei refined the indistinct mind fluctuation on his body, in an inconspicuous courtyard in the Crimson Moon City's City Lord Mansion, the red-nosed old man, who was leisurely lying on a rattan chair and enjoying fine wine, suddenly jumped up from the chair as if someone had stepped on his tail. Good fella, where did that kid come from? He actually refined that trace of my mind imprint. The red-nosed old man's eyes shone brightly. At this moment, he was no longer a wretched old man who loved wine as much as his life. Instead, he was a terrifying powerhouse. Over the past year, Meng Chongkong had been paying close attention to the traces of his missing mind imprint. However, he was disappointed. That person seemed to have really disappeared from this world and never appeared again. Although Meng Chongkong was unable to sense the trace of his mind imprint on Gu Fei's body, he immediately sensed it when Gu Fei refined it. Meng Chongkong immediately released a powerful mind imprint that enveloped the entire Crimson Moon City. As soon as that person appeared, he would personally take him down. Unfortunately, although Gu Fei had come out of the inner space, he had used the power of space to block off any aura from his body. Meng Chongkong's mind kept scanning the Crimson Moon City, but he still couldn't find any traces of Gu Fei. Meng Chongkong could only give up. Gu Fei carefully listened to the conversations of the aristocratic family's disciples and demonic cultivators outside. Gradually, Gu Fei found out that something important had happened in the Crimson Moon City over the past year. It turned out that after he had entered the inner space, the various powers in the Crimson Moon City had almost erupted into a huge conflict due to the incitement of some people. However, after Meng Chongkong's appearance, the various powers had all quieted down. In front of the wretched old man, Meng Chongkong, they didn't even dare to fart. Meng Chongkong was the true ruler of the Crimson Moon City. No one dared to challenge his authority because he was a peerless powerhouse in the half-devil realm. Then, there were indeed people from the 6 Demonic Paths Palace stirring up trouble in the city in an attempt to incite conflict between the various powers. Thus, things became much simpler. The people from the 6 Demonic Paths Palace who had infiltrated the Crimson Moon City were either killed or fled the city. Half a month later, it was Meng Chongkong's birthday celebration. The other 8 city lords of the extreme North Devil region sent people to congratulate him. Even the 6 Paths Demon Monarch sent people to deliver congratulatory gifts. After Meng Chongkong's birthday celebration, the third son of the Six Paths demon monarch, couldn't find Gu Fei, so he had no choice but to return to the Six Demonic Paths Palace with his subordinates. In the end, the Ming family of the Red Moon City didn't make a move against the Zhao family. The Zhao family's influence in the Crimson Moon City was very deep. Even if the Ming family had an expert like Ming Chongkong overseeing it, if they were to start a war with the Zhao family, even if the Ming family managed to annihilate the Zhao family, they would still suffer heavy losses. After weighing the pros and cons, Ming Chongkong and his son gave up on the idea of making a move against the Zhao family. Although the Ming family didn't make a move against the Zhao family in the end, the infighting in the Crimson Moon City continued without end. After finding out what he wanted to know, Gu Fei went down to the Crimson Moon House. The people from the Six Demonic Paths Palace had retreated, so it was time for him to leave the Crimson Moon City. Although he had been cultivating nonstop for a year in the internal space, his cultivation base hadn't broken through to the fourth sky of the transcending mortality realm. His soul had become much stronger. Although the barrier of cultivation had loosened, and Gu Fei could feel that he could break through at any time and advance to the fourth sky of the transcending mortality realm, it was just a feeling. It seemed like he could take that step at any time, but he just couldn't take it. This made Gu Fei extremely depressed. Chapter 306. The sun was high in the sky. The weather was abnormally oppressive. In the sky above, one could only see the outline of the sun emitting light. In the extreme northern demon region, being able to see the outline of the sun was already considered good weather. On the main road, there was a caravan of several hundred people slowly moving forward. The merchants and guards were chatting along the way, and sometimes they would even burst into hearty laughter. In the caravan, there was a youth wearing a straw hat. He was riding an enviable tall horse, swaying forward on the official road. This was a fine horse. Its entire body was black and shiny, without a single strand of hair. It was as if there was a layer of glossy black light flowing around it. In the extreme northern demon region, such a fine horse would cost at least 100 gold coins. However, the youth on the back of the horse didn't dare to compliment him. Not only was his appearance ugly, but he was also wearing coarse gray clothes, as if he was a country bumpkin that had never seen the world before. But he was riding an expensive horse. Such a strange combination made people feel uncomfortable, and it was impossible not to attract the attention of others. However, no one had any designs on the horse that the youth was riding. This was because every single one of them clearly remembered the scene that happened before. Not long ago, this youth had caught up to this caravan. He was riding a tall horse, and as he passed by the caravan, several guards in the caravan saw that the youth was alone. They thought that he was easy to bully and wanted to steal the horse that the youth was riding. However, that youth only used a casual punch, a kick, and a palm to send those guards flying, dying on the spot. In the extreme northern demon region, the death of a few people was nothing more than a trivial matter. But the youth's methods had stunned everyone in this caravan. No one dared to attack again. Moreover, what made the people in this caravan feel uneasy was that after this youth killed those guards, he blended in with the caravan and didn't leave. No one dared to approach that man and horse. The young man riding on the tall horse was Gu Fei, who had changed his appearance. He had left Red Moon City early in the morning. Now, he was already 300 or 400 miles away from Red Moon City. He had not yet left the range of Red Moon City. The area within 1,000 miles of Red Moon City was like an oasis on the barren land of the extreme northern demon region. In this area, the climate was not bad, unlike the barren land thousands of miles away that was not suitable for living. Even birds, beasts, flowers, and trees found it difficult to grow. However, as soon as he left this area, the climate immediately became extremely bad. It seemed that there was an unpredictable force, with Red Moon City as the center, covering thousands of miles of land. No one knew why a place with a giant city was suitable for living creatures to grow. A place without a giant city was a cold and barren land. Did the giant city have a mysterious power? Or maybe there was a dragon vein or something under the huge city, thus forming such a strange phenomenon in the far north demon region. I've been away from the sect for too long. I wonder if Chui Ling Peak has been taken over by the other branches of the sect. Gu Fei rode on the black horse, but his mind had already flown to Taishan Mountain in the eastern Qi Kingdom. I've been away from the sect for too long. I don't know if Green Spirit Peak has been taken over by the other branches of the sect. Gu Fei rode on the black horse, but his mind had already flown to Taishan Mountain in eastern Qi. When the other 8 branches saw that he was lost in the virtual sky world, they might think that he was dead and divide up Green Spirit Peak. If that was the case, he would not even have a place to stay in Taishan sect. Gu Fei couldn't help but worry a little, but soon he got over it. He was determined to move forward bravely and only wanted to make a difference on the road of martial arts. It didn't matter if he had a place to cultivate or a cave. In this world, as long as your fist was harder than others, you could get what you wanted. Along the way, the caravan did not encounter any sudden incidents, nor did they encounter robbers. However, when they passed some villages along the way, the guards of the caravan were extremely nervous, as if there were fierce beasts in the villages that would suddenly pounce on them and attack them. There was no surprise or danger. In the evening, the group arrived at a small town. The town was not big, but it was not small either. It was located in a gorge with a narrow entrance that could only allow 2 carriages to pass side by side. On both sides were cliffs that were hundreds of feet high. There were sentry posts on the cliffs, each guarded by 7 or 8 burly men with long spears and broadswords. At the entrance, there was a small group of soldiers in dark armor. Although the entrance of the town was narrow, the inside was spacious. It was shaped like a gourd, and this town was called Gourd Town. The terrain of Gourd Town was definitely easy to defend and difficult to attack. It was the only place to go to Hongyue City. However, for a cultivator like Gu Fei, no matter how tight the defense or how steep the terrain was, it was useless. Of course, such a tight defense was not used to deal with cultivators. It was used to guard against the demonic creatures that came from the barren land from time to time. From time to time, the surrounding towns were attacked by demonic creatures that came from the barren land. These demonic creatures did not have much intelligence, but they hunted humans. Fresh flesh and blood were the favorite of the demonic creatures. After Boss Tai and the others sat down, the middle-aged man surnamed Wei asked with a face full of surprise, "Boss Tai, looking at you, it seems like you fought with someone." "Wrong." Boss Tai's voice was like a great bell, and everyone in the lobby could hear him clearly. "If you didn't encounter a formidable enemy, could it be?" The middle-aged man surnamed Wei's face changed from surprise to shock. He stared at Boss Tai without blinking. "Yes." Boss Tai's words were very concise. He paused for a moment and then said, "We encountered a monster. Damn it, today is really unlucky. We didn't go far from the town, and we already encountered a monster. I don't know what day it is today, but even the monster that usually comes out at night also ran out." "No way." The lobby suddenly quieted down. The news of Boss Tai surprised everyone. They all knew what the monster in Boss Tai's mouth was. It was a creature that had been demonized in the barren land. Although this creature had no intelligence, it was still very terrible. Even if a rabbit was demonized, it would become a fierce, predatory, magical beast. "What's the loss?" the middle-aged man surnamed Wei finally asked. In their line of work, they lived a life of licking blood on the edge of a knife. "Don't mention it. The employer I was protecting didn't come back alive. Hundreds of people came back, but only a few came back." Boss Tai grabbed the wine pot on the table and drank it in big mouthfuls. Those who came back alive had a lingering fear in their hearts. The panic on their faces did not recede. They seemed to have encountered something terrible. Some people's hands were still trembling while holding their weapons. The middle-aged man surnamed Wei sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this and said in surprise, "With your cultivation, you..." At this time, everyone realized that they couldn't see the cultivation of this brawny man who was covered in blood. The people in the lobby were shocked. This brawny man turned out to be an expert. Even such a character had fled back to the town. It could be imagined how terrible the monsters outside were. The situation seemed to be extremely bad. The demonic creatures outside seemed to be a bit abnormal, which made everyone deeply worried. Only Gu Fei was still calm as usual, drinking by himself in the corner. Chapter 307. First Sky of the Ascended Mortality Realm. This big guy is not bad. It seems like the devil core worked, allowing his cultivation to break through to the Ascended Mortality Realm. In front of Gu Fei, Boss Tai's cultivation was clear. Gu Fei had once used a devil core to make Boss Tai and his 3 companions kill each other. Since Boss Tai had appeared here, then the other 3 people who had fought for the devil core that day had either been killed by Boss Tai or had escaped. However, Gu Fei noticed that Boss Tai's cultivation was not very stable. It was obvious that he had only recently broken through to the ascended mortality realm. If I were you, I wouldn't be in a hurry, Boss Tai said, then slammed the table and yelled, "Waiter, serve the wine and food. I'm hungry." Everyone was startled by his actions, and they began to whisper to each other. Many of them even quickly walked out of the inn. Everyone felt the seriousness of the situation. If an expert like Boss Tai had to escape back to Gourd Town, then they would be trapped in Gourd Town. Gourd Town's terrain was easy to defend and hard to attack, but if it was surrounded by a large number of demonic beasts, it would become an isolated town. It would be difficult for the people in the town to rush out. Night had fallen, and the town was brightly lit. The atmosphere in the town had changed. The merchants, guards, and bounty hunters all had solemn expressions, as if a storm was brewing. Gourd Town only had 2 exits, one at the front and one at the back. At this time, the gates of the 2 exits were already tightly shut. Behind the gates stood rows of soldiers in dark armor. This was still the territory of Crimson Moon City. Crimson Moon City had stationed a group of black armors here to protect Gourd Town from the invasion of demonic beasts. The black armors of Crimson Moon City were not ordinary soldiers. They were elites with strength comparable to Awakening Self-Realm cultivators. Every black armors had at least the strength of Awakening Self-Realm. Of course, they were not cultivators who pursued immortality, but were trained by Crimson Moon City to be absolutely loyal to the Meng family. With medicine or other methods, the Meng family could train soldiers who were many times stronger than ordinary people to maintain order in Crimson Moon City. After Gu Fei finished his dinner, he walked out of the inn. The sky had already turned completely dark, but the town was still bustling with noise and excitement. The merchants, guards, and bounty hunters who stayed in the town were all moving about in a hurry. The tense atmosphere in the town didn't affect Gu Fei at all. Others might be afraid of the demonic creatures outside the town, but he wasn't. Gu Fei didn't plan to spend the night in the town. After leaving the inn, he rode a big horse and went straight to the town exit. When he arrived at the exit of the town, the gate was already tightly shut. A group of black-armored soldiers blocked Gu Fei's path. A black-bearded middle-aged officer shouted at Gu Fei, "Get back." His pair of Hmong beady eyes kept glancing at Gu Fei's horse. Gu Fei's horse was extraordinary. At a glance, one could tell that it was a good horse that could travel thousands of miles in a day. The horse that Gu Fei was riding on was extraordinarily spirited. At a glance, one could tell that it was a good horse that could travel thousands of miles in a day. The middle-aged officer also revealed a look of envy, but he did not dare to openly snatch it. "Open the door." Not only did Gu Fei not retreat, but he also did not even look at the group of murderous black-armored soldiers in front of him as he said coldly, "How dare you? Did you not hear me tell you to retreat?" The officer shouted, "Umph! Did you not hear me tell you to open the door?" Gu Fei said, "Rebellious, rebellious. Men, arrest this madman." The officer was furious. He pointed at Gu Fei and gave the order. Swish! The dozen black armors behind the officer immediately rushed forward and surrounded Gu Fei. They pointed their spears at Gu Fei, and a murderous aura immediately filled the air. These black armors had a strong killing intent. They were obviously people who had been on the battlefield and seen blood. "You overestimate yourself. Quickly open the door, or you will have to bear the consequences." Gu Fei sneered. He did not put these soldiers in his eyes at all. Although these soldiers had the cultivation of the awakening realm, in Gu Fei's eyes, they were no different from ordinary people. "Go." The officer directly ordered the black armors surrounding Gu Fei. Chi, chi, chi. The sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The black armors surrounding Gu Fei thrust their spears at Gu Fei at the same time. Their movements were neat and uniform. The spears trapped Gu Fei from head to toe, wanting to stab him into a hornet's nest. It was as if a strong gust of wind had appeared on the ground. The black-armored soldiers who had attacked Gu Fei were instantly sent flying, their long spears flying out of their hands as they screamed in pain. No one could clearly see what had happened. Gu Fei did not seem to have moved at all, but the dozen black armors were sent flying. Cold sweat flowed down the middle-aged officer's face. At this time, he realized that he seemed to have provoked someone he could not afford to provoke. What? Still not willing to open the door? Gu Fei looked at the middle-aged officer in front of the horse with a mocking smile on his face. Damn, since he had such a powerful cultivation, couldn't he just jump over the wall? Why did he have to leave through the door? Unable to understand, the middle-aged officer could not help but ponder. Gu Fei's display of strength immediately stunned the black-armored army that was guarding the gate. The door slowly opened, and Gu Fei directly rode out of Gourd Town. The soldiers guarding the door no longer dared to stop him. Even if they tried to stop such an expert, it would be useless. Outside the town, there was a road that led straight to the south. In the dark night, it seemed as if there was no end. The night wind blew, and it was very cold, bringing with it a cold air. On both sides of the road, there were dense trees. It was very quiet, and there were no roars of animals. This seemed a little strange. In the forest, it was impossible that there were no beasts. Gu Fei traveled alone. After traveling for a while, Gu Fei did not feel any signs of danger. Apart from silence, there were no demonic creatures. After riding for a while, the black horse under Gu Fei gradually became a little restless. It neighed from time to time, and sometimes even stopped, as if it did not dare to move forward. Gu Fei faintly smelled a trace of blood in the air. He frowned and continued forward. When he arrived in front of a village, Gu Fei felt that the smell of blood was getting stronger and stronger. There were no lights in the village, and it was dark everywhere. Gu Fei rode into the village and saw bloodstains everywhere. It seemed that a massacre had taken place here. However, there were no corpses, only dark red bloodstains. Suddenly, Gu Fei stopped because he heard a faintly discernible sound. Based on his intuition, Gu Fei knew that it was the sound of something gnawing, as if something was tearing flesh and bones. Not far away, Gu Fei leapt up from the back of his horse with a thought. Using the 8 desolate steps, he swept through the air as if he was stepping on air and charged in the direction of the sound. In the grass outside the village, a black shadow was lying on the ground, tearing a corpse. It was a human corpse. Swoosh! With a sound, Gu Fei's figure appeared. At this time, the unknown creature that was tearing the corpse suddenly raised its head and roared at Gu Fei. It could be seen that there was a trace of flesh on its blade-like teeth, and blood was flowing from its bloody mouth. Seeing this scene, Gu Fei couldn't help but frown. This was a creature similar to a wolf, but it had no fur. He could feel that this extremely ferocious creature was surging with a faintly discernible demonic aura. This was a demonic creature that had been demonized. Hiss! The demonic creature roared at Gu Fei, and then it used its 4 thick limbs to support itself on the ground. It turned into a black shadow and fiercely pounced towards him. "You're courting death." Gu Fei pointed a finger, and a golden light suddenly shot out from the tip of his finger, instantly piercing the demonic creature's head. The demonic creature fell from the sky, and after struggling a few times on the grass, it stopped moving. Gu Fei looked at the corpse in the grass and saw that most of the corpse had been torn apart by the demonic creature, revealing the white bones. Could it be that the entire village had become demonic creature's food? Gu Fei couldn't help but be alarmed. At this time, he already knew why there were no corpses in the village. Suddenly, a scream came from not far away. This scream was so abrupt that even Gu Fei was startled. When Gu Fei rushed over, he found that the scream came from a large house in the village. The houses in the village were all built with hard stones, and most of them were short and crude. When Gu Fei arrived in front of the house, there was already a creepy gnawing sound coming from inside. Obviously, a survivor hiding in the house was found by the demonic creature and was eaten alive. This was a terrible thing. In the dark of the night, humans became demonic creatures' food. At this time, a mournful neigh of a horse came from the street of the village. Damn it! Gu Fei immediately rushed over, but when he rushed to the street, He just happened to see two humanoid demonic creatures shrouded in pitch-black demonic energy tear his mount into two halves. Blood mist evaporated, and the horse's internal organs scattered on the ground. The scene was extremely bloody. He could clearly see two eerie cold lights coming from the heads of the two humanoid demonic creatures. It was a pair of gloomy and terrifying eyes. Preposterous. Gu Fei was infuriated. These two demonic creatures actually killed his mount, which made him very angry. In the next moment, Gu Fei directly left an afterimage in his place and rushed forward like a whirlwind. He blasted a punch towards the two demonic creatures. The bright divine light instantly illuminated the night sky, and the surging fist energy swept forward like a big wave, enveloping the two demonic creatures in an instant. There was no one around, so Gu Fei no longer needed to hide his strength. The vast fist energy directly shook the void. Chapter 308. Bam! 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 Two black shadows flew out from the dazzling aura that Gu Fei blasted out. Their ear-piercing roars resounded in the dark night, causing one's heart to palpitate. Network, they're still alive? Gu Fei was a little surprised. These two demonic creatures did not seem to be simple. They were actually able to withstand one of his punches. No wonder that lump of metal was at a disadvantage. Only then did Gu Fei realize that Boss Tai's words were not false. The demonic creatures that appeared near Gourd Town were really powerful. Even transcending mortality realm cultivators had to retreat. Gu Fei was about to chase and kill the two humanoid demonic creatures, but at this moment, he suddenly heard rustling sounds coming from all directions. It seemed that countless unknown creatures were quickly approaching. Pong! A humanoid demonic creature rushed out from the bushes beside the village road. With a roar, it pounced towards Gu Fei with its claws and fangs bared. Then, a second one, a third one. A total of more than 10 humanoid demonic creatures rushed out from the bushes on both sides. The smell of blood drifting in the void attracted a group of terrifying demonic creatures. Each of the demonic creatures was shrouded in a layer of demonic chi, and a fierce and ferocious aura immediately filled every inch of space. Humph! Gu Fei wielded his palm like a blade, and a golden divine light cut through the void. Shwa! The demonic creature that pounced over was directly cut in half. The two pieces of the corpse fell on the street and slid forward for several feet before stopping. The demonic creatures that smelled the smell of blood immediately pounced on the one that was cut in half by Gu Fei. Then, a series of bone-chilling chewing sounds were heard. In just a short while, the corpse of the demonic creature that was killed by Gu Fei was torn to pieces by more than a dozen demonic creatures that swarmed over and ate it. Not even the bones were left. Seeing this scene, even Gu Fei couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. After feasting on the corpses of their own kind, the dozen or so magical beasts clearly had not satisfied their appetites. Their ferocious gazes swept over Gu Fei once more. Hiss! One of the monsters let out a roar. Its body sank, and its four limbs pushed off the ground. Suddenly, it turned into a black bolt of lightning and pounced towards Gu Fei. Although these unintelligent monsters looked very much like humans, they were not actually formed after humans were demonized. They were a kind of alien species that roamed the barren land. This kind of humanoid monster was called a predator by the people of the northern demon region. Although predators were not particularly powerful demonic creatures, the people who traveled to the 9 great cities of the extreme northern demon region were most unwilling to encounter such demonic creatures. To ordinary people, predators were terrifying demons. Usually, a single predator could slaughter a caravan or destroy a small village. However, Gu Fei was not an ordinary person, so these predators were out of luck. Buzz! A sword chime rang out from Gu Fei's body. Then, 5 hazy sword silhouettes appeared in the 5-colored aura around him. Golden, turquoise, aqua blue, fiery red, earthy gray. Each sword shadow revealed a kind of color, representing the 5 elements sword essence. The 5 elements sword chi surged out from the 5 sword shadows. Die! Gu Fei's hands separated, and the 5 hazy sword shadows immediately shot out. An amazing scene appeared. The 5 sword shadows that shot out suddenly shook, and suddenly turned into endless five-colored sword chi. Like a circle of countless sword shadows formed a huge wave, sweeping out in all directions. Without any suspense, the dozen or so predators were instantly annihilated in the storm-like sword rain, cut into thousands of pieces. Although the five elements sword essence was still in its embryonic form, it was not something these monsters could contend with. Within a radius of 20 feet, the sword chi pierced through the void, and the houses next to it were also affected, instantly turning into dust. Around Gu Fei's body, there seemed to be a world of swords, a terrible world of swords that destroyed everything, tore everything, and pierced through everything. After killing the dozen or so predators, the five elements sword shadows re-entered Gu Fei's body. He was about to leave, but the two predators that were previously blown away by his punch pounced on him from a distance. Don't these monsters know what fear is? Gu Fei frowned. With a wave of his hand, two strands of sword chi shot out and instantly killed the reckless demonic creature. In fact, as Gu Fei thought, these monsters really did not have this kind of instinct to fear. They seemed to not feel the existence of danger at all, and only knew to prey. After killing the last two predators, Gu Fei suddenly seemed to sense something, and the next moment, he disappeared from the place as if he had teleported. At this time, a figure came from the direction of the gourd town, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived near the village and landed on the village road from the sky. What a strong sword chi, righteous and not evil. Could it be a sword expert of the righteous path? A demonic shadow was shrouded in a pitch-black demonic aura. To be able to fly in the air, this person must be a void-controlling realm devil general. Impossible. How could a person of the righteous path appear here? A cold voice came from the demonic aura, and two black lights shot out from the demonic aura, scanning in all directions. He did not leave any aura. This person is definitely an expert. A powerful divine sense swept across the radius of a few miles in an instant, but apart from those ugly monsters, there was no human aura. The figure shrouded in demonic aura stayed on the village road for a while, as if he was checking the surrounding situation, and then soared into the sky, heading towards the south. After waiting for the devil expert to leave, Gu Fei walked out from a house not far away. He felt that things seemed to be a little unusual. Even a void-controlling realm devil general was dispatched. Gu Fei did not go far. With the power of the inner space, it was as if he was in a world independent of the big heaven and earth. Although the void-controlling realm devil general was powerful, he could not sense his existence. The devil general shrouded in demonic aura was heading towards the south, which made Gu Fei to be careful, because the south was the direction he wanted to go. This village that was attacked by monsters was not too far away from the gourd town, and a terrifying predator had already appeared. In the end, what dangers lay ahead, Gu Fei had no idea in his heart. Gu Fei continued on his way. In the extreme northern devil territory, walking in the dark was undoubtedly a very dangerous thing. Even Gu Fei did not dare to be careless. Gradually, the surrounding plants began to become sparse. Gu Fei walked silently in the darkness, and he clearly felt that the temperature around him was dropping. I'm almost out of the range of the Red Moon City. Gu Fei knew that he was about to step into the dangerous barren land. Along the way, Gu Fei did not find any traces of the monsters wandering in the darkness, hunting their prey. Could it be that the devil general had already cleaned up the monsters on the road? The answer soon appeared. When Gu Fei set foot on the dark brown land of the barren land, he saw a two-headed, elephant-like magical beast lying in a pile of rocks. The two hideous heads of this magical beast were pierced, and its blood had gathered in a large pool on the ground. As he continued to move forward, Gu Fei found several terrifying magical beasts one after another. However, these magical beasts had been killed, and looking at the appearance of their deaths, it seemed that they had been killed in an instant. There was no sign of struggle or fighting. In other words, these magical beasts did not have any power to resist in front of the person who killed them. On the barren land, there was no longer any vitality. Between heaven and earth, there was a deathly atmosphere. Apart from the cold, it was still cold. There was a trace of demonic nature that came from the dark, which made Gu Fei a little irritated. In the thousands of miles area where the giant city was located, The omnipresent demonic nature was blocked outside. Gu Fei knew that ordinary people could not walk in the barren land, unless they wore a kind of talisman called the mysterious Yang Jade Talisman and protected their body with pure Yang energy. Only then could they walk in the barren land of the extreme northern devil territory. Chapter 309. A demonic cultivator suddenly appeared outside the valley, causing Gu Fei to jump in fright. It also broke the silence of the surroundings. The countless demonic creatures gathered outside the valley immediately rushed towards the figure shrouded in demonic chi in the sky and roared. Their roars were like the howls of tens of thousands of demons, shaking the heavens and earth. Countless demonic creatures gathered together and erupted with an extremely tragic aura, causing Gu Fei to tremble with fear. If he was discovered by these demonic creatures, even if he had an extremely powerful mortal body and wasn't afraid of being bitten by these demonic creatures, he would still have to flee. Among the countless demonic creatures, there was a demonic creature with black wings on its back. It immediately soared into the sky and rushed towards the figure shrouded in demonic chi. The mysterious person shrouded in demonic chi stood in the void, exuding a majestic aura from head to toe. The posture of a powerhouse that looked down on the world was completely revealed. Gu Fei hid behind a boulder. He knew that the demonic cultivator in the void above the valley entrance was a terrifying powerhouse. The terrifying fluctuations that he emitted were enough to make one's heart palpitate. A demonic light shrouded the area, and all the flying demonic creatures that rushed towards the demonic path powerhouse collapsed into a mist of blood, drifting down from the sky. After the demonic light destroyed the demonic creatures, it didn't disappear. It continued to envelop the area below. The terrifying demonic light expanded outwards, enveloping the entire world. Countless demonic creatures, under the shroud of the demonic light, silently collapsed. It was like snow and ice meeting the sun. This was a terrifying light of slaughter, a light of destruction. In just a moment, the countless demonic creatures gathered outside the valley entrance were completely annihilated. Only a few powerful demonic creatures didn't collapse under the terrifying demonic light. But their bodies were torn apart, their flesh and blood were mangled, and they were on the verge of death. Outside the valley entrance, blood flowed everywhere, but not a single piece of flesh or blood could be seen. This was because the bodies of all the demonic creatures had been destroyed. Not even their bones were left behind. This was a bloody slaughterhouse. Blood soaked every inch of the dark brown soil. The pungent smell of blood wafted over, causing Gu Fei to feel nauseous. Roar! Just at that moment, a deep roar rang out from within the valley. Then, 13 demonic figures walked out from the surging demonic aura. Each demonic figure gave off a heart-palpitating aura. Gu Fei, who was hiding behind the boulder, was shocked to see this. He could sense endless death chi and demonic chi surging from those demonic figures. Those 13 figures weren't humans, but they didn't seem to be pure devils either. They didn't have any life auras, and seemed to be evil beings that were half corpses and half devils. Humph! You're playing tricks on us. The demonic figure in the sky above Ku Ko sneered. Then, a huge palm surrounded by demonic aura rushed towards the 13 terrifying figures that walked out of the valley. Rumble. Violent power surged forward, like 10,000 horses galloping, shocking people's hearts. Under the cover of the demonic palm, the void shook violently. Without any suspense, the Devil Path powerhouse displayed a great demonic might, and the 13 figures shrouded in death chi and devil chi were blasted away into the valley. Roar. Another roar came from within the valley. The person in the valley seemed to be very angry. His roar shook the heavens and the earth, and the demonic aura that shrouded the valley surged violently, as if a ferocious devil was about to rush out of the valley. Who is it who dares to disturb my refinement? An angry roar came from within the valley. Humph! I didn't expect the corpse devil to brazenly refine a demonic corpse. How arrogant! Outside the bone, the figure shrouded in demonic aura said, "You, who are you?" The person in the valley was obviously shocked. "I'm here to kill you." After saying that, the demonic figure outside the valley turned into a black lightning, broke through the surging demonic aura that shrouded the valley and directly rushed into the valley. Immediately, a roar of shock and anger came from within the valley. Vast energy fluctuations suddenly erupted, causing the entire valley to shake. Boulders kept rolling down from the surrounding mountains. The valley was shrouded in demonic aura, and Gu Fei couldn't see the situation inside clearly. However, he vaguely saw figures flashing inside, and there seemed to be a lot of people in the demonic aura. Demonic devour the heavens and earth. An emotionless and suffocatingly cold voice came from within the valley. Then, Gu Fei felt an extremely powerful energy fluctuation coming from the valley. The demonic aura that shrouded the entire valley immediately receded into the valley like a tide. All the demonic aura quickly gathered towards a black hole. The black hole emitted an evil and terrifying aura, as if it was connected to the netherworld. It emitted a powerful suction force that continuously devoured the demonic aura. Even though Gu Fei was outside the valley and far away, he still felt as if there was an unfathomable suction force that wanted to devour his mind. What a terrifying demonic technique! Gu Fei was secretly shocked. Not only was the evil black hole devouring demonic aura, it seemed to be able to devour one's mind as well. Shintahong, so it's you. I'll remember this. An unwilling roar came from within the valley. Then, a mass of demonic aura wrapped around a dozen black figures soared into the sky and instantly rushed out of the valley. Want to escape? Leave your life behind. The person called Shentu Hong seemed to have come for the mysterious person that cultivated some sort of demonic divine ability in the valley, and he wanted to kill that person. Energy fluctuations that were heavy like a mountain swept out mightily. The terrifying black hole within the valley that could devour the heavens and the earth expanded explosively, and it wanted to devour the person that charged out of the valley. But unfortunately, his movements were too slow. The mass of demonic aura that wrapped around a dozen figures swiftly flew towards the west. In an instant, it had charged out 300 m, and it avoided being devoured by the black hole. Shinto Hong cursed in a low voice, and then he soared into the sky. He combined with the black hole in the sky and transformed into a dark light that chased after the mass of demonic aura that fled ahead. Both of them were swift to the extreme, and in an instant, they'd vanished beneath the night sky. Along with the departure of the two demonic experts, the terrifying pressure within the valley vanished as well. Even the surging demonic aura that enveloped the heavens and the earth was devoured by the person called Shuntu Hong into the black hole. The surroundings quietened down. After Gu Fei had ascertained that there was no danger, he walked out from behind the boulder. He walked forward and saw that the ground was covered in blood. Countless demonic creatures were almost completely annihilated by a single attack from the demonic expert called Shintu Hong. Their bodies had shattered into blood that sprinkled onto the dark brown ground and seeped into the soil. In the desolate region, the climate was extremely harsh. Bitter cold was everywhere, and the dark red blood on the ground had long since frozen. The few extremely powerful demonic creatures that had survived were now only gasping for breath, and it seemed as if they could die at any moment. Some of the demonic creatures at the periphery were lucky that they weren't enveloped by the destructive demonic light and escaped the calamity. These demonic creatures seemed to be controlled by some sort of power, and that was why they had gathered outside the valley. Obviously, someone who cultivated some sort of demonic divine ability in the valley had used a secret technique to control the demonic creatures in the nearby region, and caused these creatures that didn't have much intelligence to guard outside the valley. Countless demonic creatures were enough to cause trouble for a demonic general with a cultivation of the void-controlling realm. However, it was a pity that the person called Shintu Hong possessed extremely terrifying demonic arts and was definitely a rare expert. Hence, these demonic creatures were out of luck. The surviving demonic creatures charged towards the few dying demonic creatures as if they had gone mad. Then, they ferociously bit off pieces of flesh and swallowed them into their stomachs. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere, and it was extremely bloody. Gu Fei didn't pay any attention to those demonic creatures. He walked into the valley and saw that white bones could be seen everywhere on the ground. As he walked into the valley, what entered his eyes were shattered rocks and cracked ground. Obviously, These were the traces left behind from the battle between the two people just now. Entering into the depths of the valley, a sacrificial altar stood on the dark brown ground. This was a collapsed sacrificial altar, and the sacrificial altar was stained with blood. Every brick and stone had blood-colored demonic runes drawn on them. Those runes weren't drawn with cinnabar, but seemed to be drawn with fresh blood. Gu Fei could smell the stench of blood. Very obviously, this demonic altar was destroyed by the demonic expert called Shunta Hong just now. There seemed to be many black demonic banners stuck around the sacrificial altar, but those banners had already been shattered. On the fragments of the demonic banners that were scattered on the ground, Gu Fei could still feel waves of demonic fluctuations. These demonic banners didn't seem to be ordinary demonic treasures. Around the sacrificial altar, there were many white bones scattered, and there were also 7 or 8 corpses lying on the ground. Gu Fei felt that these corpses seemed a little strange. This was because these corpses didn't wear any clothes, and their skin was also painted with demonic blood-colored runes. Gu Fei came to the front of a corpse. It was a middle-aged man. Gu Fei felt that the runes on this corpse seemed to have sunk deep into the skin. Gu Fei had a strange feeling that these runes didn't seem to be drawn on, but grew out of the body. What kind of demonic technique is that guy cultivating? Gu Fei felt a chill in his heart. What he saw in front of him was really too demonic. It gave him a creepy feeling. The yin qi in the valley was very heavy, at least a few times heavier than in other barren areas. The temperature in the valley was very low. Even Gu Fei felt waves of cold air rushing up his body. This valley seems to be a yin cave. Gu Fei looked at the surrounding terrain, and his face revealed a shocked expression. No wonder that person wanted to cultivate demonic techniques here. This was originally a place where yin qi gathered, and with the sacrificial altar set up by that person, and the formation set up to gather the mysterious yin qi between heaven and earth, it would be strange if this place wasn't cold. The 7 or 8 corpses that didn't wear clothes were all men. There were no women. Moreover, Gu Fei also felt the fluctuations of death qi and demonic qi from these corpses. From what Shintu Hong said about the corpse devil, could it be that the mysterious person who was expelled from the valley was refining the corpses? When Gu Fei thought of this, all the pores on his body exploded, and goosebumps fell to the ground. At this moment, one of the corpses behind Gu Fei suddenly moved. Then, the corpse abruptly opened its eyes, which flickered with a blood-red light. The pupils and sclera of the eyes disappeared in an instant, and 2 terrifying rays of red light shot out from the eyes, appearing exceptionally evil and terrifying in the night sky. The blood-colored runes on the corpse lit up, and every rune emitted a demonic blood-red light. The blood-colored runes seemed to come alive, and seemed to surge under the skin. It was indescribably demonic. Chapter 310. The demonic corpse silently stood up behind Gu Fei. Its blood-red eyes had no pupils and no sclera. They emitted a fierce and evil blood-red light. Its entire body was covered in blood-red runes. It was like a demon that had crawled out of hell. The blood-red runes on the evil corpse's body flickered 3 times. Then, a black demonic aura and a gray deathly aura surged out from the evil corpse's body. The evil corpse spread its arms and pounced towards Gu Fei. At this time, Gu Fei had already felt something strange behind him. He didn't think and took a step forward. His body suddenly disappeared from where he was standing. In the next moment, his figure appeared again. He was already more than 10 feet away. In terms of agility, no one at the same level could compare to him. Once he used the 8 desolate steps, even the experts of the older generation would find it difficult to catch up to him. The demonic corpse that was extremely evil immediately pounced on empty air. Gu Fei turned around. He was extremely shocked. He had never thought that a corpse without any signs of life would stand up and attack him. The corpse let out a low roar from its throat when it missed. Devil qi and death qi surged out from the corpse's body. It was like the roar of an evil spirit from hell. The corpse once again pounced towards Gu Fei. The devil qi and death qi formed a dark fog that wrapped around the corpse. There were no signs of life. However, there were 2 kinds of energy fluctuations emitted from the corpse's body. Gu Fei could clearly feel that there were 2 different kinds of energy fluctuations. The death chi and the devil chi were unexpectedly able to coexist on the corpse's body. Bang! Gu Fei directly sent the corpse flying with a palm strike. The corpse wasn't scary, but what surprised Gu Fei was that the corpse's body seemed to be comparable to refined iron. It unexpectedly didn't collapse under the power of his palm strike. At this time, the valley was filled with a layer of gray fog. This was the dark fog that was a mixture of death chi and devil chi. In the darkness, Gu Fei found that the corpses scattered around the altar began to move. Then, the naked corpses covered with evil blood-red runes staggered up from the ground one by one. They weren't resurrected, but they were being controlled by an evil force. Even the dead aren't spared. Gu Fei couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when he saw this scene. He had already vaguely guessed that the mysterious person in the valley was practicing some kind of devil path divine ability. This devil path divine ability was too evil. It unexpectedly refined the corpses of dead experts into terrifying devil corpses that only knew how to kill. Within the hazy underworld mist, a blood-colored light was emitted. Those lifeless demonic corpses stood up from the ground and coldly stared at Gu Fei. There was not a trace of human emotion in them, only an aura of destruction and deathly stillness. It was like a pair of eyes of death that came from hell. In the valley, the death chi and devil chi lingered. The bodies of the devil corpses began to emit powerful energy waves. Then, they roared and charged at Gu Fei. Chi. Gu Fei casually pointed with a finger. A dazzling golden light tore through the void like a golden rainbow. It instantly hit the forehead of the devil corpse that had already pounced in front of him. The devil corpse flipped and rolled on the ground. However, Gu Fei frowned. He realized that the sharp power of his finger that could pierce through stone and gold was actually unable to penetrate the head of the devil corpse. The devil corpse that had been knocked down crawled up from the ground again. This really surprised him. It should be known that even if it was a piece of iron, with his current skill, he could still make a hole in it with a point of his finger. It could be seen that the bodies of the devil corpses were as hard as iron. It was as if they were no longer made of flesh and blood. It was hard to imagine what kind of secret technique the mysterious person who refined the devil corpses had used to refine the bodies of the corpses to become so strong. After sending the devil corpse that had pounced at the front flying, the other devil corpses had already pounced in front of him. Gu Fei immediately retreated. At the same time, a golden sword shadow appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the sword light was like a rainbow. It drew upon the power of metal in the void and swept towards the devil corpses that were pouncing at him. Chi, chi, chi. The faint and illusory sword shadow swept across the bodies of the devil corpses. It was like cutting through tofu, easily cutting through their skin and flesh. Their heads were either cut off, or their waists were cut into two. The metal element sword intent seemed indestructible. However, Gu Fei knew that this was due to the remnant soul of the divine weapon that had been refined into the blood and chi in his body. That was why his 5-element sword intent was so powerful. However, Gu Fei noticed that there wasn't a single drop of blood on the devil masters that had been slashed by the sword. It was as if the sword had slashed at dead flesh that had already coagulated with blood. This scene was very strange. Gu Fei could already confirm that these devil corpses were corpses that didn't have any signs of life. However, he couldn't understand. Hadn't the devil Dao expert called Shentu Hong already destroyed the sacrificial altar and chased away the mysterious person who was refining the devil corpses in the valley? Why were these devil corpses still able to move without anyone controlling them? In the instant that the devil corpses were slashed by the sword shadow, the energy within their bodies rapidly dissipated. Their flesh and blood also shriveled up, turning them into dried corpses that were only skin and bones. The reason why the devil corpses could move and attack Gu Fei seemed to be because of the death chi and devil chi within their corpses. This place wasn't suitable for him to stay for long. Gu Fei hurriedly left the valley that was lingering with Yin Chi. Since these devil corpses could still undergo corpse transformation, then the mysterious person who had been chased away by Shentu Hong would return. Sure enough, not long after Gu Fei left, a ball of devil cloud flew over from the horizon and directly landed in the valley. Immediately, a furious roar resounded in the valley. Shentu Hong, I'm not done with you. That person was enraged. Then, he rode the devil cloud and soared into the sky, flying back in the direction he came from with a murderous aura. Gu Fei carefully moved forward in the darkness. The nearby Devil Dao expert Shinto Hong had almost completely annihilated all of the Devil Dao experts that were summoned to the outside of the valley. Therefore, Gu Fei didn't discover any traces of Devil Dao experts along the way. Very soon, Gu Fei was far away from that region. After getting his bearings, he continued to head south. His walking speed had also clearly increased by quite a bit. It had to be said that the extreme North Devil region was very vast. Gu Fei walked in the cold wilderness for 5 to 6 days before he arrived at another huge city, Antarctic City. Along the way, Gu Fei encountered many powerful Devil Dao experts. Some of them could even threaten him, but he managed to get through all of them without any mishaps. Antarctic City was a huge city in the south of the extreme North Devil region that was closest to the Central Plains. Due to its location, Antarctic City was also one of the 9 huge cities in the extreme North Devil region with the highest population. Gu Fei didn't stop at Antarctic City. Instead, he continued to head towards the Central Plains. At noon on this day, when Gu Fei arrived at the foot of a barren mountain, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. This was because there were people fighting on the mountain. 2 figures were moving quickly on the mountain, and loud noises could be heard from time to time. Dong Li Patian, hand over the fire dragon's inner core, and I can let you off the hook and spare your life. Someone shouted on the barren mountain. I said before, I don't have the fire dragon's inner core. Dong Li Patian, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. That person's words became incomparably cold. So cold that it was suffocating, and the surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped. I don't have it means I don't have it. That person called Dong Li Patian seemed to be very angry. Very good. Then, there was a showdown of Devil Dao's magical techniques and magical techniques. The intense collisions caused the entire barren mountain to shake. Gu Fei didn't want to complicate matters. He didn't want to meddle in the conflict between Devil Dao cultivators. Just as he was about to take a detour, Gu Fei felt an intense murderous intent coming from behind him. He saw 7 or 8 figures standing on a dark cloud, blocking Gu Fei's path. Which force do you belong to? The 8 Devil Dao cultivators descended from the sky and surrounded Gu Fei. Someone asked, but it was obvious that they were surrounding Gu Fei. It's none of your business which force I belong to. Gu Fei's performance was very strong. He had no choice but to do so, or else the other party would see through him. If we belong to the same camp, it would be bad if there was a misunderstanding. The leader looked Gu Fei up and down, his eyes flashing with an almost imperceptible ominous light. I don't belong to anyone, nor have I joined any force, Gu Fei coldly said. Kill him. At this moment, these words suddenly came from the top of the mountain. Then, the 8 demonic cultivators immediately dispersed. Brat, our eldest senior brother wants to kill you. Sorry. A short young man said. He then raised his hand, and a dozen black lights flew out from his hand, shooting towards Gu Fei. Within each black light was a black nail shrouded in demonic qi. This was a magic treasure of the Devil Dao, the soul-chasing nail. It was said that once it was released, it would not return until it was stained with blood. Gu Fei's 10 fingers moved as he unleashed sword qi, which instantly collided with the soul-chasing spike. A sound similar to air leaking erupted, and then the soul-chasing spike dissipated. The soul-chasing spike also fell to the ground. Why do you want to kill me? Gu Fei was very calm. He could already see that although these people came on clouds, their cultivation was lower than his. The strongest one was only at the 3rd heavenly layer of the ascended mortality realm. These people were riding on dark clouds just now. It seemed that they had used flying magic weapons. Because you are Gu Fei. At this moment, another voice came from the barren mountain. Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. Could these people be the minions of the 6 Paths Devil Palace? After leaving Hongyu City, Gu Fei had already returned to his original appearance. You are from the 6 Paths Devil Palace? Gu Fei's expression changed. That's right. Obediently surrender, and we might leave your corpse intact. Haha. Among the people surrounding Gu Fei, a youth said disdainfully. Gu Fei sneered. It was still unknown who would leave whose corpse intact. Chapter 311. When the 8 demonic cultivators saw that Gu Fei was able to defeat the soul-chasing nail with just a finger, they knew that the person in front of them was not easy to deal with. Although the soul-chasing nail was not a powerful magic weapon, the fact that the other party had destroyed it so easily made everyone's expression turn serious. Attack! The short Shaoqing man with a gloomy expression waved his hand, and a small flag that was shrouded in black qi appeared in front of him. At this time, the other 7 young cultivators also made their move. 8 small flags appeared, and each small flag was shrouded in a layer of hazy demonic light. Moreover, they quickly expanded, and a vast amount of demonic qi surged out, trapping Gu Fei. In an instant, the sky turned dark, and the sun and moon lost their light. The 8 demonic flags suddenly grew 10 feet long, and endless demonic qi surged out from them, covering the sky and the earth. What the hell is this? Gu Fei crossed his arms in front of his chest and calmly looked at these fellows. He did not immediately make a move. The demonic aura that surged over from all directions was blocked by the 5 elemental aura that came out of his body. Kaka, kid, accept your fate. No one can come out of our 10,000 demonic formation alive. A gloomy voice came out from the surging demonic qi. The voice was erratic, and no one knew where it came from. The 8 demonic cultivators had already concealed themselves in the inky black demonic qi the moment they summoned their demonic qi. Hearing this, they burst into laughter. 10,000 demonic formation? Gu Fei could not help but want to laugh. Just the name alone was enough to scare a lot of people. However, this demonic formation did not seem to live up to its name. Gu Fei found that although the demonic qi around him was surging violently, emitting an endless demonic aura, and the temperature around him plummeted, it did not seem to hurt him at all. This time, Gu Fei was a little careless. He allowed the 8 Devil Dao cultivators from the 6 Paths Devil Palace to trap him in the demonic array. Furthermore, the demonic array had just been activated, and its might had yet to be unleashed. Dance of the Demons. A loud roar rang out from within the demonic qi. Following that, Gu Fei's expression no longer looked as relaxed as before. He could sense that the demonic formation that was trapping him was beginning to change. A great force was being exerted from all directions, pressing down on him. The demonic flags were faintly discernible within the demonic qi. As they swayed, it seemed as if countless demonic shadows rushed out from the flags and pounced into the demonic qi. Demonic howls that caused one's heart to palpitate rang out from all directions. Within the demonic qi, faint and illusory demonic figures began to appear. Each demonic figure emitted an evil and powerful aura. After the heavenly devil flag swallowed the Dao core or devil core, its power would greatly increase. As Gu Fei listened to these people's words, his face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. It was frighteningly cold. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Watch how I break your demonic formation. Gu Fei shouted. His voice was like a great bell, and the rolling sound waves shook the demonic qi around his body, covering up the sound of the explosion. He used all his strength to circulate his Xian qi, and the light of the 5 elements came out of his body, forming a huge 5-colored ball of light that enveloped him. No matter how the demonic shadows outside attacked, they could not shake Gu Fei's protective gang qi. However, the demonic shadows that self-destructed did not disappear. After they self-destructed, they quickly condensed again in the demonic qi and then continued to pounce on Gu Fei. This kind of attack seemed endless. Haha, you can break our myriad demon formation? Unless the sun rises from the west. This is the funniest joke I've ever heard. He's crazy. The 8 young cultivators from the 6 demonic palace who were hidden in the myriad demon formation all mocked Gu Fei. It was no wonder that they were so confident. Even someone with a higher cultivation than them, trapped in the myriad demon formation, would have their magic power and true essence whittled away by the endless attacks. However, they could not do anything to Gu Fei at the moment. The Sky Demon Blade? Just then, a cry of surprise came from afar. Dongli Patian, you bastard. The next time we meet, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. The voice quickly faded away, and by the time it finished speaking, the last few words were already more than 10 miles away. The speed of that person was evident. Humph. Trying to take advantage of senior brother's fire WIRM inner core? How reckless. A disdainful voice came from within the demonic chi. Gu Fei sensed a powerful aura rapidly approaching from the front. Although he was busy dealing with the demonic shadows that kept pouncing on him, he kept his eyes and ears open. He knew that Dongli Patian had used the Sky Demon Blade to chase away the other demonic cultivator who was eyeing the fire WIRM inner core, and then turned around to deal with him. The Sky Demon Blade. I didn't expect the number 1 demonic blade to be in his hands. This is going to be troublesome. Gu Fei was secretly shocked. He had seen the power of the Sky Demon Blade before. Gu Fei died. Outside the demonic formation, a figure directly rushed in. Then, a blood-colored blade light tore through the void, sweeping away layers of demonic chi, and directly chopped down on Gu Fei's head. Gu Fei was trapped in the center of the demonic formation, and a powerful force surged from all directions, making it difficult for him to dodge the blade. The blade light shot out hundreds of feet, like a heavenly blade, and actually split open a hundreds of feet long hole in the tumbling demonic chi in the sky. Like a blood-colored rainbow, it emitted an endless demonic aura and fiercely chopped on the 5 elements gang chi around Gu Fei. The moment the unparalleled blade light chopped on Gu Fei's 5 elements gang chi, the demonic shadows that pounced on Gu Fei from the demonic chi suddenly dissipated under the blood-colored blade light. Chi, the 5 elemental stellar energy, which was as hard as godly metal, could not even withstand a single blow from the Sky Demon Saber's saber ray. The saber ray sliced through the 5 elemental stellar energy around Gu Fei's body like a thin piece of paper. Damn it! Gu Fei's long hair danced in the wind as he stared at the falling blade light. At this moment, the skin of his whole body suddenly turned purple. His whole body was like an unsheathed peerless divine weapon, revealing its sharpness and emitting a shocking sword chi. Rumble. The entire 10,000 demonic formation began to shake. Retreat. A loud shout came from above, and the 8 demonic cultivators who used the demonic flags to form the 10,000 demonic formation immediately cried out in alarm and quickly retreated. Boom. With a loud bang, the whole world shook violently. The blood-colored blade light and the purple sword chi were like divine lights of destruction, shooting out in all directions. A terrifying destructive force spread out, and the demonic chi that had sealed the heavens and earth dissipated like snow under this force. How could this be? Within the energy storm, a figure shrouded in demonic chi was sent flying. The 300-meter-long blood-colored blade light shattered in the void. The ground cracked and caved in. Dust flew everywhere as a huge pit appeared on the dark brown ground. Amidst the cries of alarm, the 8 demonic flags that had been sent flying by the terrifying force rapidly shrank, turning into a black light that shot into the bodies of the 8 demonic cultivators who had been sent flying. The destruction of the 10,000 demonic formation immediately dealt a huge blow to the 8 cultivators. As they crashed to the ground, they all spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone from the 6th demonic palace must die. A cold voice rang out from within the pit. Amidst the billowing dust, a terrifying figure walked out of the pit and stared coldly at the people from the 6th demonic palace. Gu Fei was furious. Just now, he was almost dismembered by the Sky Devil Saber. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in dust. His shirt was torn into rags that hung on his body, and a trace of blood could be seen at the corner of his mouth. He looked extremely miserable. Chapter 312. Everyone was shocked beyond belief. Someone had actually survived a single strike from the Sky Demon Saber. The Sky Demon Saber was known as the number 1 saber of the demonic Tao. Dongli Patian was the most shocked. He never imagined that someone would be able to resist the edge of the Sky Demon Saber with just his body alone. The Sky Demon Saber was the defining treasure of the 6th-path demonic palace, and it possessed unparalleled might. Dongli Patian couldn't help but feel a little uneasy as he stared at the silhouette shrouded in murderous aura. He could sense that his opponent was very strong, and there was something strange about him. If it weren't for the Sky Demon saber, Dongli Patian would have retreated a long time ago. However, he had the Sky Demon saber in his hand. So even though he could sense the unfathomable power on Gu Fei's body, he was still confident that he could put up a fight against Gu Fei. There weren't many people in the Six-Path Demonic Palace who knew about Gu Fei, but Dongli Patian was Chu Ji's successor, so he knew about Gu Fei's existence. Even Dongli Potion's 8 junior brothers didn't know who Gu Fei was or why Dongli Patian wanted Gu Fei dead. After all, the first son of the Six-Path Demonic Lord had suffered a great loss at the hands of an unknown brat. Chu Gu definitely wouldn't tell anyone about this. He only told his third brother, 7 luminaries, and a few of his confidants. If this matter were to spread, Chu Gu would definitely lose all his face. Therefore, Dongli Patian immediately recognized Gu Fei as the person his master had mentioned. Hence, he ordered his 8 junior brothers to kill Gu Fei. If Gu Fei hadn't fused a mysterious sword soul into his body through the weapon refinement technique, Dongli Skybreaker might have succeeded. The sharpness of the Sky Demon saber wasn't something that Gu Fei could contend with right now. However, with the help of the sword soul, Gu Fei's body gained the characteristics of the mysterious sword. Even the Sky Demon saber couldn't break through Gu Fei's flesh. In the nick of time, Gu Fei used the power of the divine weapon soul to cover his entire body. It was as if he had transformed into an ancient divine weapon, allowing him to block the Sky Demon saber's light and escape this calamity. Step by step, Gu Fei approached the devil cultivator who was sent flying. The 5 elements divine light burst out of his body like a 5-colored divine fire burning outside his body. Buzz! A crisp sword chime rang out. Amidst the 5-colored divine radiance, 5 sword shadows appeared. The 5 elements sword chi spread out, and the surrounding temperature plummeted. Why, you're a sword cultivator? Dongli Patian couldn't help but be moved at this moment. The sword aura emanating from Gu Fei was simply too powerful. It was as if his entire being had turned into a heavenly sword. Dongli Patian could feel the Sky Demon saber vibrating in his hand. Taking another step forward, the earth trembled slightly. Gu Fei was like a huge ancient mountain slowly moving over, his heavy aura pressuring everyone to the point of suffocation. Moreover, the instant he took his second step, Gu Fei's aura suddenly rose by a large margin, pressing towards Dongli Patian like a demonic god. Dongli Potion's expression changed abruptly. To his surprise, he realized that there was an indescribable rhythm to Gu Fei's footsteps, as if they were one with the pulse of heaven and earth. Gu Fei's footsteps drew upon the energy of heaven and earth, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered towards him. The 8 retreating disciples also noticed this phenomenon, and they were all incomparably shocked. Could it be that this youth's cultivation had already reached the realm of being one with the world? Bam! With another step, Gu Fei appeared in front of Dongli Patian as if he'd teleported. Dongli Patian felt his heart thump violently along with the sound of his opponent's footsteps. Dongli Patian felt a boundless, mountain-like energy ripple radiating from Gu Fei's body. It was as if the entire world was trembling with Gu Fei's footsteps. At this moment, Gu Fei seemed to have truly merged with heaven and earth, and the frequency of his footsteps perfectly harmonized with the pulse of heaven and earth. This was a terrifying rhythm, and he was controlling the initiative of the battle. With his third step, Gu Fei's aura and strength rose to an unimaginable level. The 5 elemental swords around him were no longer faint and illusory. Instead, they glowed with resplendent sword light, as if they were 5 divine swords of different colors. They revolved around him, emitting a towering sword chi. Gu Fei's strength was condensed with every step he took. It was like the waves of a great river, layer after layer, stacking on top of each other. With just 3 steps, Gu Fei's strength had already risen to a horrifying level. The vast energy fluctuations that emanated from his body caused ripples that could be seen with the naked eye to appear in the surrounding space. However, Gu Fei didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. He wanted to take a 4th step. With Gu Fei's current cultivation base, he could only take the 4th step of the 8 steps 8 kills. However, Dongli Patian wasn't going to let him take the 4th step, because he could already sense the danger. Roar! Dongli Patian bellowed. His long hair danced wildly in the wind as rays of black light shot out from his body. He gripped his saber with both hands and raised it up high, channeling all the energy in his body towards the Sky Demon Saber. The Sky Demon Saber emitted a dazzling crimson radiance. A terrifying saber chi surged from the saber and dyed the surrounding space the color of blood. Sky Demon slaughtering gods, saber dominating the world. Dongli Potion's expression was extremely ferocious as he shouted and slashed down with the Sky Demon Saber in his hand. A crimson saber light soared out from Dongli Potion's hand, shooting for hundreds of meters and heavily slashing down on Gu Fei's head. This saber strike was so domineering that it seemed as if it would even split the heavens and earth in half. The crimson saber light had the power to split the heavens and earth, causing the earth to tremble. His 8 junior brothers saw that the situation wasn't right and dodged even further away. "Oomph!" Gu Fei sneered. At this moment, his 4th step was already unstoppable. Rumble. It was as if thunder was rumbling. The power of the 4 steps was extremely violent. The earth cracked, the void seemed to collapse, and the heavens and earth trembled as if doomsday had arrived. The unparalleled saber light slashed through the torrent of energy formed by Gu Fei's 4th step like a hot knife through butter, slashing towards Gu Fei. The power of the 4th step seemed to be unable to withstand the ferocious might of the Sky Demon Saber. But was that really the case? The 8 Desolation Steps was an ancient battle technique. Of course, it wouldn't be so weak. When the crimson saber light slashed in front of Gu Fei, the power of the 4th step suddenly erupted. Rumble. The terrifying power resisted the slash of the saber light. The blood-colored saber light quickly slowed down until it was only a meter away from Gu Fei's head. Kacha-kacha. Cracks appeared on the seemingly solid blood-colored saber light, as if something had split open. Then, with a bing sound, the blood-colored saber light collapsed and turned into specks of blood-colored light that shot out. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, the earth violently undulated like waves. Hideous fissures appeared on the ground. The Sky Demon Saber Chi and the power of Gu Fei's 4th step completely exploded. 2 terrifying forces spread out in all directions. The dark brown earth beneath Gu Fei's feet turned into a layer of dust that swept out in all directions. Gu Fei flew back like a phantom, using the 5 elemental sword chi to protect himself as he rushed out of the erupting energy storm. Dongli Potion, on the other hand, was sent flying hundreds of meters away. His face turned red as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Even with the Sky Demon Saber in hand, he was still injured. Chapter 313. This was a direct collision of strength. There were no tricks involved. The stronger one would win. However, it seemed that the two were evenly matched. After Gu Fei stabilized himself, his face flushed red as if he was drunk. A mouthful of blood rushed up his throat, but he forcefully swallowed it back down. 5 faint and illusory sword shadows were still revolving around him, emitting waves of cold sword chi that blocked the energy storm that was about to erupt. The profound art circulated rapidly within his body. As his flesh and blood surged, streams of pure 5 elemental yuan chi were released, causing Gu Fei's entire body to seem like a piece of 5-colored godly metal, giving off a feeling of being filled with power. The physical body of a cultivator was incomparably tough because it was the source of their power. A body that had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times was something that other cultivators couldn't compare to. A tough body not only had a strong recovery ability, but also the longest endurance. This kind of physical strength undoubtedly gave him a lot of advantages in battle. Again, Gu Fei shouted and took a step forward, displaying his extreme speed of 8 steps. It was as if he was teleporting. With each step, he could travel 100 meters. In just a few steps, he had arrived in front of Dongli Potion. He didn't even need to take a breath. Good. Dongli Potion's fighting spirit was like a rainbow. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill Gu Fei with the demonic saber in hand. Dongli Potion gripped the demonic saber with both hands and slashed at Gu Fei again. A blood-red light illuminated the world. The surrounding spiritual energy quickly gathered towards the demonic saber. The saber light turned into a blood dragon that was hundreds of meters long, pouncing towards Gu Fei with its claws and fangs bared. Gu Fei's face was as calm as still water. He extended his right hand and took in a golden sword shadow beside him. He then slashed out with his sword. With a whistling sound, a golden sword chi rushed out of Gu Fei's hand. It was like an incomparably huge, heavenly sword, strangling the blood dragon that was pouncing towards him. The saber chi turned into a dragon, and the power of heaven and earth was also drawn. Endless spiritual energy gathered towards the blood dragon, raising its power to the limit. The sky demon saber was a spiritual demonic weapon. Not only could it devour a cultivator's blood and soul, it could also devour the spiritual chi between heaven and earth. Wherever the saber light went, it would cut off all life. On the other hand, Gu Fei's metal element sword chi was extremely firm and yang, which was the nemesis of the sky demon blade. Boom! With a loud bang, the sky demon blade's dragon blade chi and Gu Fei's metal sword chi collided in an instant. The terrifying blade chi and sword chi clashed violently, then shot out in all directions. In this second confrontation, the two top young experts still didn't use any techniques. It was a battle of pure strength. They wanted to completely overwhelm each other in terms of strength. Kacha! The golden sword light that resembled a heavenly sword shattered and turned into specks of golden light that scattered in all directions. At the same time, boom! A loud explosion rang out, and the crimson dragon formed by the blood-red Tao light also exploded, sending blood-red light shooting in all directions. Golden and blood-red, the two-colored light exploded into a vast energy storm, sweeping outwards. Rumble! The void trembled, and the earth trembled. The two energy storms wreaked havoc, distorting space and shaking the earth as if this part of the world was about to collapse. Gu Fei and Dongli Patian, who were at the center of the energy storm, fell from the sky along with the shattered ground. Everything in a radius of several dozen meters around them had collapsed. The dark brown earth was incomparably hard, but it was as brittle as tofu under the two's feet. Dust and dirt rose several dozen meters into the air. Rumble! Underground, the two were still locked in battle. The energy fluctuations that erupted from them caused the ground to undulate like waves. Boulders tumbled, and countless pieces of shattered earth shot into the sky. Gravel pierced through the air, as if doomsday had arrived. The blood-red blade chi and golden sword chi that were shooting out in all directions seemed invincible. The dark brown earth was instantly covered in sword and saber marks. The 8 Dongli Patian juniors watching from afar were all incomparably shocked. They were well aware of Dongli Potion's strength, not to mention that he had the Sky Demon Blade in hand. Even if they combined their strength in the Myriad Demon formation, they still wouldn't be Dongli Potion's match. However, they discovered that their senior brother had encountered an unimaginably powerful opponent who could fight endlessly against Dongli Patian with the Sky Demon Blade. After exchanging a blow, Gu Fei and Dongli Patian charged at each other. 5 swords spun in Gu Fei's hand, and Gu Fei only needed to stretch out his hand to draw the swords into his hand and unleash a barrage of unparalleled sword light at Dongli Patian. Gu Fei discovered that Dongli Potion's cultivation had already reached the 4th stage of the Ascended Realm. If Dongli Patian didn't have the Sky Demon Blade in hand, he would have long since died under Gu Fei's sword light. The Sky Demon Blade blocked all of Gu Fei's attacks. Each time Dongli Patian slashed out, there seemed to be countless demons roaring within the blood-red light. The air-piercing sound was like a soul-stealing demonic sound that could affect the opponent's mind. Although Gu Fei had seen Demon Monarch of 6 Paths' doppelganger fight against Chaoyang Hermit, the first seed of Shaoyang Peak with the Sky Demon Blade in the mountains outside Dragon Emperor City, Gu Fei had never seen it. At that time, Gu Fei felt that the Sky Demon Blade was extremely terrifying. But now, Dongli Patian couldn't fully exert the power of the Sky Demon Blade. Gu Fei's 5-element sword chi was enough to resist the Sky Demon Blade. If Dongli Patian could fully exert the power of the Sky Demon Blade, Gu Fei would have long retreated decisively. Bang! Dust flew everywhere as 2 silhouettes rushed out of the pit. Die! With a roar, Gu Fei took out a brilliant immortal sword in each of his hands. They were metal sword shadows and fire sword shadows. Using 8 desolation steps, Gu Fei soared into the sky. Golden sword chi and flames filled every inch of the space and shrouded towards Dongli Patian. Dongli Potion's long hair fluttered in the wind as he brandished his sky demon blade in all directions. Each slash seemed to be able to break the void and split the world, blocking the brilliant sword lights. The fire sword chi and metal sword chi collided with the evil blood-red saber light. The two people constantly clashed with each other from the ground to the ground before soaring into the sky. Gu Fei pushed 8 desolation steps to the extreme, while Dongli Patian seemed to be standing on a demonic cloud, allowing the two to soar into the sky. Extremely powerful chi waves surged in all directions like monstrous billows. The dark brown ground shook violently as the dark brown soil spread outwards like waves. The boulders on the ground were sent flying, and the 8 demonic cultivators were the first to be hit. They cried out in alarm as they dodged far away. The strength of these two young experts was simply too shocking. They seemed to be able to compete with the experts of the older generation. Looking from afar, one could see a sky full of golden light and a blood-red evil light clashing and canceling each other out. The two experts seemed to be flying in the sky as they fought fiercely in the air for a short period of time. After using 8 desolation steps to the extreme, Gu Fei could move in the air for a short period of time. Dongli Patian could also stay in the air for a short period of time with his demonic cloud. The same cold eyes and the same messy long hair. One righteous and one evil. The two pinnacle young experts battled in the air like gods and demons. Boom! The two clashed again before falling to the ground. Transcending mortality cultivators, be it martial cultivators or demonic cultivators, could not truly fly in the air. Transcending mortality cultivators could soar in the air, but they had to rely on magic treasures. Although Gu Fei and Dongli Patian could stay in the air for a short period of time, they could not stay in the air for long. I have the demonic saber in my hand. How can you fight against me? Dongli Potion's hair was flying in the air as blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He pointed the invincible demonic saber at Gu Fei. 5 sword shadows rotated around Gu Fei's body, protecting him. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and sneered. So what if you have the demonic saber? If you could defeat me, you wouldn't have said so much nonsense. Huh. Dongli Patian couldn't help but become furious. He could only contend against Gu Fei by relying on the demonic saber in his hand. This was enough to prove that he was inferior to Gu Fei. Kill! Dongli Patian roared and swung his demonic saber, unleashing layers of crimson saber light that enveloped the sky and swept towards Gu Fei. The peerless saber chi spread out, stirring up the dark brown dust on the ground, causing it to spread in all directions. Great 5 Elemental Annihilation Palm. Gu Fei roared as endless 5-colored rays converged towards his right palm. This terrifying martial technique drew upon the power of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Gu Fei pushed his right hand forward as the boundless power of the 5 elements condensed in front of Gu Fei's palm into a palm of light that emitted a terrifying fluctuation. It rushed forward like a mountain. Rumble. The heaven and earth trembled as the huge palm of light emitted a majestic energy fluctuation. The crimson saber light that was sweeping towards them all shattered under the palm of light. Roar! Dongli Patian seemed to have turned into a war demon as he slashed out 3 times in a row. The 100-meter saber light tore through the void and slashed at the palm of light. Boom! Crimson light burst out as the saber light shattered, causing the heaven and earth to tremble. The first slash couldn't stop the palm of light, but it had already dimmed. Boom! Another slash, accompanied by unparalleled saber aura, caused the palm of light to tremble again and again. It was as if it could shatter at any moment in the void. Boom! Another loud explosion rang out as the great 5 Elemental Annihilation Palm, condensed from the power of the 5 elements, crumbled under the 3rd slash. The crimson saber light had already dimmed after splitting the palm of light, but it didn't stop there as it continued to slash towards Gu Fei, who was behind the palm of light. Oomph! Gu Fei sneered. He took a step forward and reached out his hand to grab the saber radiance. The saber radiance, which seemed to have materialized, was caught in his hand. Bing! The saber radiance instantly shattered, turning into specks of blood light that scattered in all directions. How awe-inspiring! Let's see where you can run this time. Gu Fei. A loud roar came from the distance just as Gu Fei shattered Dongli Potion's saber light. The voice rumbled like thunder, reverberating in the air for a long time. At the same time, Dongli Potion felt his hand shake as the sky demon saber turned into a crimson light and soared into the sky. Chapter 314. While Gu Fei and Dongli Potion were fighting, a long roar suddenly came from the distant sky. The sound was like rumbling thunder, and it reverberated in the sky. A terrifying energy wave surged over from afar. When the voice entered Gu Fei's ears, he was immediately alarmed. He quickly looked in the direction of the voice and saw a demonic cloud enveloping a hazy demonic figure rapidly approaching. Without any hesitation, Gu Fei immediately turned around and fled. He pushed his extreme 8-steps speed to the limit and dashed dozens of meters away like the wind and lightning. The incoming person was riding on a demonic cloud. It was a peerless expert of the Imperial Void Realm. Gu Fei had no choice but to flee. A peerless expert of the Imperial Void Realm wasn't someone he could contend against. Haha, flee? Do you think you can still escape? A loud voice came from behind Gu Fei, reverberating between heaven and earth. The expressions of Dongli Potion and his junior brothers changed greatly. The rolling sound waves caused their blood and qi to churn. The 8 young cultivators turned pale and were on the verge of collapsing. The blood-red light from the sky demon saber rushed into the sky and shot towards that person. The blood-red demonic saber appeared in that person's hand and gave off a clear dragon's roar. The blood-red light shot out and gave off a demonic ripple that could cause anyone's heart to palpitate. How could it be him? This is troublesome. At this moment, Gu Fei felt that his life was in danger. He had already recognized the voice of the peerless expert that came from the void. Swish! As if he was teleporting, Gu Fei sprinted across the barren land without looking back. With every step he took, he would appear 30 to 40 meters away. It could be said that he was extremely fast. As the pursuit continued, Gu Fei and the peerless expert disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. The peerless expert who put away the sky demon saber didn't pay any attention to Dongli Potion and the 8 young cultivators who were standing on the ground in a daze. He chased after Gu Fei. It's master? Dongli Potion murmured to himself in disbelief. The sky demon saber wasn't something that just anyone could take away, unless it was the demonic monarch of 6 paths and a few others. Master, he has come out of seclusion. The 8 Devil Dao cultivators looked at the devil cloud disappearing into the distance, their faces filled with fear. The 8 steps extreme speed could be said to be the fastest in the world. When cultivated to the extreme, one could travel through the world with 8 steps. However, with Gu Fei's cultivation level, even if he used all of his strength, it would be difficult for him to perform the 8 steps extreme speed. Very soon, Gu Fei had run over 10 miles, but the person chasing him on the demonic cloud was not slow either. In fact, he was even a little faster than Gu Fei's extreme 8 steps. The distance between the two of them was gradually shrinking. Soon, the demonic cloud was already closing in on Gu Fei. Eat my blade. A cold voice rang out from within the demonic cloud. Then, a blood-colored blade light slashed out from the cloud. It soared thousands of meters into the sky and chopped down on the fleeing Gu Fei. It was the same sky demon saber, but in the hands of this person, it displayed a terrifying might that made even the heavens and earth pale. The difference was like the difference between clouds and mud when it was in Dongli Potion's hands. The 1,000-meter-long blade light enveloped the sky and earth. Gu Fei felt his body sink. Before the blood-colored blade light even reached him, it felt like a mountain was pressing down on his body, causing Gu Fei's speed to immediately slow down. Damn it! Gu Fei felt a great danger enveloping him. The cold saber qi seemed to be all-pervasive, causing the rapidly circulating yuan qi in his body to boil. There was a strange, evil energy that wanted to vaporize his body's qi and blood. Gu Fei felt as if his insides were being scorched by fire, as if his entire body was on fire. Furthermore, the fire was burning inside his body. However, even though he felt like he had fallen into a sea of fire, All the pores on Gu Fei's body exploded the moment the blade light landed. Roar! Gu Fei let out a mad roar as he desperately circulated the 5 elemental yuan qi in his body. The 5 sword shadows around him erupted with a blinding light, forming a terrifying barrier of light around him. The 5 elemental sword qi rushed forward. Gu Fei desperately dodged to the side when the 1,000-meter-long saber radiance slashed down. The terrifying saber radiance brushed past him, and the 5 elemental sword aura around Gu Fei's body instantly shattered. The clothes on his upper body turned into rags in an instant. Boom! With a loud noise, the blade light slashed on the dark brown ground, causing the area to shake violently as if there was an earthquake. The Sky Devil saber slashed out a 1,000-meter-long saber mark on the ground. The terrifying saber qi swept out, and Gu Fei was sent flying by the terrifying saber radiance. As the world shook violently, Gu Fei was directly swept away by the destructive storm. He spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. The Sky Demon saber, in the hands of a peerless expert of the void-controlling realm, displayed a terrifying power that caused even the heavens and earth to pale in comparison. With just a single slash, it was as if the earth had been split into 2 halves. On the dark brown earth, the soil cracked and caved in, forming a 1,000-foot-long slash mark that was dozens of feet wide and hundreds of feet deep. If Gu Fei were to be struck by this slash, he would die on the spot even with the protection of the nameless sword spirit. This was strength. If one's cultivation was not high enough, even if one had a peerless magic weapon, it would be difficult to exert its true strength. Like a kite with its string cut, Gu Fei was sent flying 100 zhang away. Bang! He fell to the ground with a thud. Although he wasn't really struck by that earth-shattering blade, he still suffered a great impact. Gu Fei felt as if his body was falling apart. His body was covered in bloody scars, which were left behind by the saber qi that had burst out. The destruction of the 5 elemental astral sword had severely injured him. If he hadn't spread the essence of the magic weapon throughout his body, he wouldn't have been able to withstand such an attack. Lying in the cold soil, Gu Fei's heart was filled with despair. His opponent was too powerful, and he didn't even have the strength to fight back. At this time, Dongli Patian and his 8 junior brothers also arrived nearby. They couldn't help but be shocked by the scene before them. Has Master recovered his cultivation? Dongli Patian thought. They didn't dare to move forward because the lofty figure standing on the demonic clouds in the sky emitted a great pressure, making them feel as if a boulder was pressing down on their hearts. Haha, Gu Fei, accept your fate. That person looked down at Gu Fei, who was on the ground, and laughed heartily. He seemed to be very happy. Gu Fei coughed out a mouthful of blood and staggered up from the ground. He smiled bitterly. I didn't expect your cultivation to have risen to this level. Humph. If I hadn't been heavily injured by that dead ghost on the demonic god island, you would have already died by my hands. The figure shrouded in demonic energy gave off an incomparably evil aura. He paused for a moment before continuing. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to fuse with the demonic god's blood so easily. You're an expert of the older generation, yet you want to deal with a nameless junior? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the world? Gu Fei coldly asked. As matters stood, he wasn't afraid of the other party's ferocious might. Haha, how childish. I'm a demon, and I'm afraid of being laughed at? I, Chu Gu, am a demon. Whatever I want to do, I do. I don't care what others think. Gu Fei knew that there was no hope of escaping, so he didn't say anything else. At this moment of life and death, his heart was calm as he stared straight at Chu Gu in the sky. Chu Gu, who was standing on the demonic clouds, couldn't help but admire Gu Fei's courage when he saw how calm he was. It would be a pity to kill such a person. Good. If you can pledge allegiance to me and work for me, I can spare your life. Chu Gu said. He had a heart of love for talent. For a person like Gu Fei, if he turned to the demonic path, he would also be able to achieve something. Humph. If you want to kill me, do as you please. I will definitely not join the demonic path. Gu Fei knew that if he agreed to Chu Gu, he would become a traitor of the supreme mystery sect and be shamed by the world. Haha, Gu Fei, you've done well. At this moment, a loud laugh suddenly came from the sky. A golden light flashed in the sky, and in an instant, a middle-aged man wearing a blue robe appeared in front of him. The Tao sect's golden light escape technique? Chugu couldn't help but be surprised. The person who had come was definitely a master. There was a golden light in the sky, and the person seemed to have teleported, arriving in front of him. His speed was shocking. Chugu knew that the person who had come was powerful, so he no longer hesitated. He directly slashed down at Gu Fei. His chi had already firmly locked onto Gu Fei. This slash was a fatal one. Along with the mournful cries of ghosts, the crimson saber light swept across the sky. Under the envelopment of the saber light, heaven and earth trembled. The terrifying edge of the saber seemed to be able to tear the sky apart. It was as if it was going to kill Gu Fei with a thunderous momentum. Since he could not be used by him, he would immediately kill him. Chu Gu was a decisive person. He would not hesitate at all. As soon as he had the intention to kill, he immediately acted without the slightest bit of hesitation. Chu Gu, you're courting death. The person seemed to recognize Chu Gu. When he saw that Chu Gu wanted to kill Gu Fei, he could not help but be furious. He then waved his sleeve, and a golden light shot out towards Chu Gu. Within the golden light, countless thin golden threads could be seen. They pierced through the void, piercing towards Chu Gu at an extremely fast speed. At this time, Gu Fei knew that his chance had come. However, he found that under Chu Ji's heavenly devil blade, he could not move at all. The blade chi enveloped the world, binding him, and the void around him seemed to be frozen. Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. At this time, he realized that the gap between him and a peerless void-controlling expert was huge. How did Chu Ji's cultivation increase so quickly? Gu Fei struggled with all his might. The five-colored light was like a five-colored flame that emitted from his body. He wanted to rush out from under Chu Ji's blade. He knew that if he was hit by Chu Ji's blade, even with the protection of the Sword Soul, he would still die. Chapter 315. Minister Dan. In the face of that person's attack, even Chu Ji's expression changed. If it was under normal circumstances, he would definitely not put his opponent in his eyes. But now, his cultivation had just recovered to the void-controlling realm, and the opponent's strength was on par with his. Left with no choice, Chu Ji's slash towards Gu Fei paused for a moment. A glaring blood-red light spread out and actually engulfed the tens of thousands of golden threads that were shooting towards Chu Gu. With this pause, Gu Fei, who was enveloped by the 1,000-foot-long saber light, immediately felt his body relax, as if a huge mountain that was pressing down on him had suddenly been moved away. Roar. At the juncture of life and death, Gu Fei let out an angry roar. His face contorted, and he looked extremely ferocious. He used all his strength to activate the Yuan Qi in his body, and every inch of his flesh, every piece of his tendons and bones emitted a dazzling light. At this moment, all his flesh, blood, tendons, and bones seemed to have been deified, emitting a dazzling light. A five-colored light penetrated his body, and an unprecedentedly powerful energy fluctuation erupted. When the saber light fell again, Gu Fei resisted the endless pressure coming down from the sky and rushed out, narrowly avoiding the 1,000-foot saber light that was coming down from the sky. Pong! The earth shook violently, and the dark brown hard ground undulated like waves, spreading to both sides, and black dust rose high into the sky. Gu Fei was swept away by the terrifying saber light like a withered leaf, and he spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Damn it! An angry roar came from the sky, and golden light illuminated the world. At the same time, a figure surrounded by golden light rushed down from the sky, grabbed Gu Fei, and rushed into the sky. Humph! With a sneer, Chu Gu waved the sky devil saber, mincing all the golden threads that were shooting at him from all directions, and then slashed at the figure wrapped in golden light. The saber light cut through the void and instantly struck the back of the golden figure, but at this moment, there was a flash of golden light, and the golden figure grabbed Gu Fei and disappeared into thin air the moment the saber light struck. When the golden light reappeared, it was already more than 10 miles away. What a fast escape technique. Chu Gu couldn't help but be shocked at this scene. The Tao sect's escape technique was not inferior to the demonic path's heavenly demon blood transformation escape technique. Where do you think you're going? Chu Gu shouted, and immediately chased after the figure on the demonic cloud. The golden light in front of him flashed a few times before disappearing into the horizon. Chu Ji's speed was clearly inferior to his opponent's, but he could still follow the energy fluctuations in the void that had yet to subside and chase after it. The two's speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, and they had already disappeared into the horizon. Dongli Patian and his fellow disciples had never imagined that things would turn out like this. The appearance of Chu Gu and that expert called Minister Dan had shocked them to the extreme. After a long time, Patian and the Tao sect of the sect of the demonic abyss. This place was not far from the abyss of immortals and demons. It was not strange for a peerless expert of the Tao sect to appear here. After all, the opposite side of the abyss of immortals and demons was the territory of Northern Wei. Dongli Patian was the first to chase after Chu Gu. The 8 demonic path experts were a little hesitant, but they still chased after him in the end. Swish! Patian took the lead and chased after Chu Gu. The 8 demonic path cultivators were a little hesitant, but they still chased after him in the end. Swish! The golden rainbow streaked across the sky and went far away in an instant. Gu Fei seemed to be riding on the clouds as he was held under the ribs of the Taoist sect's expert as they flew in the air. Gu Fei could only feel the astral winds blowing against his face, and he could barely open his eyes. The dark brown ground below him was moving rapidly, and soon, Gu Fei could feel the surrounding temperature rising. He noticed that the ground below him was gradually becoming sparse with plants. The atmosphere was no longer lifeless, and there was a hint of life between the heavens and earth. The Tao sect's golden light escape technique was incomparably fast. In a short while, the expert had already carried Gu Fei 700 to 800 miles away, and the mountains and forests began to appear below. Whoosh! The golden rainbow streaked across the sky like a meteor falling from the sky and landed on the ground. Thank you, Martial Uncle, for saving my life. After landing, Gu Fei immediately bowed to the middle-aged Taoist. He already knew who had saved him from Chu Gu. Minister Dan smiled. No need to be so polite. Then, Minister Dan looked at Gu Fei from head to toe, and his face gradually revealed a look of disbelief. I can't believe it. Your cultivation has actually broken through to the transcending mortality realm. Heaven's will, oh heaven's will. It seems that even the heavens do not want the lineage of Green Spirit Peak to end. Minister Dan sighed. At this time, he could already see that Gu Fei's cultivation had broken through to an unimaginable level. At such a young age, he already had a powerful cultivation that allowed him to look down on his peers. This child's potential was limitless. If he could grow up, perhaps Taishan sect would have a great character. How did you come out of the virtual sky world? And why didn't you return to Taishan sect? Why did you appear in the Northern Devil's territory? Minister Dan asked. His mind was full of questions. Ever since the discovery of the virtual sky world, there were no records in the ancient books of the 3 great Taoist schools of anyone who was trapped in the virtual sky world and was able to come out. Since the beginning of records, there was only one ending for disciples of Taoist schools who were trapped in the virtual sky world: death. However, not only did Gu Fei not die, but he also came out of the virtual sky world and appeared in the Northern Devil's territory, the birthplace of the demonic path in the world. This was something that Minister Dan could never have imagined, but it actually happened. Could it be that there was a spatial passage in the Northern Devil's territory that connected to the virtual sky world? This was absolutely impossible. If there was a spatial passage in the Northern Devil's territory that connected to the virtual sky world, it meant that people of the demonic path could also enter the virtual sky world. However, after entering the virtual sky world, the disciples of Taoist schools who entered the virtual sky world didn't find any traces of demonic path cultivators. There was no doubt that there was a big secret on Gu Fei's body, and this was also a secret that Minister Dan desperately wanted to know. It's hard to explain in a few words. Martial Uncle, should we leave this place first? Gu Fei looked around and was surprised to find that there was an abyss in front of them. It was an abyss filled with devil aura. There was a stone bridge above the abyss. At a glance, it was obvious that this stone bridge had existed for countless years. It made Gu Fei feel an ancient aura. They were standing on a stone path leading to the stone bridge. Okay. Minister Dan also knew that the things that Gu Fei experienced couldn't be explained in just a few words. After we pass the abyss of immortals and demons, we will reach the Northern Wei country's Bailing Pass. We will be safe there. As he spoke, Minister Dan took the lead and walked towards the stone bridge. The stone bridge was very wide, allowing 7 to 8 tall horses to cross side by side. The stone bridge was built with green boulders, and it looked simple and unadorned. The railings on both sides were engraved with ancient patterns. Just as Minister Dan and Gu Fei stepped onto the stone bridge, a terrifying and evil aura surged from the north, and a devil cloud appeared in the sky. Minister Dan, where do you think you are going? A loud shout suddenly came from afar, shaking the heavens and earth. The first son of the demon lord, Chu Gu, had finally arrived. Minister Dan turned to look at the sky and frowned. He then said to Gu Fei, "You cross the bridge first. I will go and meet the first son of the demon lord." Without waiting for Gu Fei to speak, Minister Dan's body emitted an incomparably strong wave of spiritual energy. His body was faintly glowing with a golden light. In the next moment, he shot up into the sky, rushing towards Chu Gu. He still wants to fight at this time? Gu Fei didn't understand Minister Dan's actions. In fact, he didn't know that Minister Dan had only recently broken through to the void-controlling realm. After breaking through to the void-controlling realm, Minister Dan was very eager to fight with experts of the same level. He wanted to test how strong he was after breaking through to the void-controlling realm. Chu Gu would be a good opponent. As the two of them approached each other in the sky, Minister Dan waved his hand, and thousands of golden threads of light shot out, piercing towards Chu Gu, who was shrouded in devil chi. The golden light illuminated the heavens and the earth. The tens of thousands of golden threads of light were formed from countless golden needles that were as thin as a cow's hair. This was Minister Dan's personal magic treasure, and its power was astonishing. Chu Gu waved the sky devil blade, and instantly, a blood-colored blade light surged out from his hand, forming layers of blood waves. It was like a raging sea surging, blocking the golden threads of light. "Kill!" Minister Dan's voice was extremely cold. As he shouted, his body emitted a dazzling golden light. The golden threads suddenly covered the heavens and the earth, forming a golden net that sealed off the heaven and earth. It dispersed the blood waves and shrouded Chu Gu, who was shrouded in the devil chi. Roar! A roar came from the devil chi cloud, and then an evil blood-colored blade light rushed out. Suddenly, the blade chi soared into the sky, and blood light shot out in all directions. The blood-colored blade light directly slashed upwards. Pong! With a loud sound, the golden net that was shrouding was torn apart. The golden threads all collapsed under the blade light, turning into dazzling golden light that filled the sky. After the blade light broke through the golden net formed by countless golden needles, it did not lose its momentum and directly slashed towards Minister Dan. Wherever the blade light went, nothing could stop it. The Sky Devil Blade is indeed powerful. Minister Dan's body turned into a golden ray of light, and he quickly retreated, dodging the blood-colored blade light. He was secretly shocked. Chu Gu wasn't going to let him off easily. He took a step forward and swung his demon saber, slashing it towards Minister Dan. He wanted to use the power of the Sky Demon Saber to completely suppress Minister Dan. However, Minister Dan did not want to fight Chu Gu head-on. He quickly moved in the sky, dodging the blade light of the Sky Devil Blade. At the same time, he used the golden needles to split into thousands of golden threads that shot towards Chu Gu from all directions. At this time, Gu Fei had already walked on the ancient stone bridge. He looked at the fierce battle in the sky, but he did not leave. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ancient stone bridge, took a spiritual medicine, and used its power to heal his injuries. Chapter 316. On the ancient stone bridge, Gu Fei operated his mysterious technique to refine the medicinal efficacy of the spirit extract. He only felt as if there was a raging flame burning in his abdomen. What he swallowed was a fire-attributed spirit extract, which contained a huge amount of fire-attributed spiritual qi. Traces of fire-attributed qi radiated out from his dantian, and then rushed into his meridians, flowing throughout his body. Then, from his meridians, the spiritual qi penetrated into his flesh and bones and was absorbed by them. The huge amount of spiritual qi quickly healed Gu Fei's injured body. His body, which had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times, could now easily refine and absorb the spiritual qi of the spirit extract. Of the spiritual qi contained in a heavenly treasure, Gu Fei could refine and absorb more than 60% of it, and only waste less than 40%. If it was any other cultivator who swallowed the fire-attributed spirit extract, they could at most refine 30% to 40% of its medicinal efficacy, which was already their limit. Their physiques were far inferior to Gu Fei's. A martial artist's strength came from their body, and Gu Fei's physique was much stronger than cultivators of the same level. The strength of his body was enough to withstand the magical weapons of cultivators of the same level. The fire-attributed spiritual qi was vast and mighty in Gu Fei's body, washing through his flesh and bones again and again. The huge amount of spiritual qi was constantly absorbed by his body, and his injured body quickly healed. A red aura emitted from the surface of his body, and in just a moment, a dark liquid seeped out from Gu Fei's pores, which was the blood clots in his body being forced out. Gu Fei was slashed twice by Chu Ji's heavenly devil blade. Although these 2 slashes did not really hit him, the terrible power that erupted from the heavenly devil blade was not a small matter, causing him to suffer a great impact. Not only did his internal organs suffer a severe shock, causing internal injuries, but cracks also appeared in many parts of his bones. Gu Fei's injuries were not light. However, under the nourishment of the huge amount of spiritual qi from the spirit extract, Gu Fei's injured body was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The internal injuries of his internal organs were quickly improving, and the cracks on his bones were quickly disappearing, once again becoming as sparkling as jade. Gu Fei's bone body was transforming into the immortal god Jade Bone. At this time, in the sky above the abyss of immortals and demons, muffled thunderous noises resounded unceasingly. 2 terrifying energy fluctuations spread out in all directions. The energy of heaven and earth was chaotic to the extreme, and this side of heaven and earth trembled. The 2 peerless experts seemed to have turned into 2 bolts of lightning, violently colliding in the sky, striking out layers upon layers of energy waves, attacking each other to kill. The blood-colored saber light soared for thousands of feet, slashing out in all directions. The terrifying saber light fell from the sky from time to time, like a blood-colored heavenly saber, chopping down on the ground. Dust rose high into the sky, leaving behind terrifying saber marks that were thousands of feet long. The battle was incomparably intense. Golden rays of light covered the sky, and tens of thousands of golden rays pierced through the void. However, it was difficult to seal the terrifying figure that was surrounded by demonic energy. Minister Dan was at a disadvantage. The natal Dharma treasure that he had refined could not compare to the Sky Demon Saber in terms of power or the nature of the Dharma treasure. After all, the Sky Demon Saber was known as the #1 saber in the world of demonic Tao. It had already given birth to a saber spirit and was a spiritual demonic weapon. Under the control of Chu Gu, it displayed great ferocity. Every time the saber slashed out, the blood-colored saber light filled the space between heaven and earth. The tragic sound of the saber tearing through the air was like the roar of tens of thousands of demons. It was like a soul-stealing demonic sound, causing one's mind to tremble. This was another kind of attack, an attack of sound waves. The Sky Demon Saber had devoured the blood and essence of countless living beings. The endless resentment of the cultivators that had been devoured by the saber spirit converged into a terrifying demonic sound that could destroy one's soul. Boom, 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 boom. Tens of thousands of golden rays collided with the Sky Demon Saber fiercely. Every time they collided, the golden rays would shatter. The blood-colored saber light was indestructible, tearing apart the golden light curtain and directly chopping out. Both of them had already used their full strength. Minister Dan's body was surging with magical power, as if he had turned into a golden sun, moving at extreme speed in the sky. He did not dare to face the sky demon saber head-on. He cultivated the metal elemental magical power. His void realm cultivation allowed him to communicate with heaven and earth, drawing upon the metal elemental power between heaven and earth. His magical power was almost endless. As for Chu Gu, he was also a peerless expert of the void realm. His demonic might was unparalleled. He could also use his demonic body to connect with heaven and earth, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth, causing the demonic aura in his body to be endless. Peerless experts of the void realm had already touched upon their own Tao. Such experts were very terrifying. They could communicate with heaven and earth, fly in the air, and truly achieve limitless magical power. They could draw upon the power of heaven and earth to replenish the magical power in their body in an instant. The two peerless experts fought until the sky darkened and the earth darkened. The vast and terrifying energy ripples that spread out caused even heaven and earth to lose their color. At this moment, Minister Dan's Taoist crown that tied his hair together was nowhere to be seen. His long hair was disheveled, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. His natal magic treasure had suffered continuous violent attacks from the sky demon saber, causing his body to also be shaken. On the other hand, Chu Gu was not much better. With every slash, a large portion of the demonic aura in his body was instantly drawn out by the sky demon saber, causing him to feel as if his body was being sucked dry. In theory, a peerless expert of the void realm could achieve an endless supply of true essence. However, such a huge consumption was too much for Chu Gu to bear. The sky demon saber was like a blood-sucking demon. If he wanted to activate the sky demon saber, he would need to consume a huge amount of demonic aura. Even if he could communicate with heaven and earth, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth to replenish his demonic aura, it was still difficult for him to last. The speed at which he replenished his demonic aura could no longer keep up with the speed at which he consumed it. "Don't run if you have the guts," Chu Gu shouted madly. His eyes were bloodshot, and he emitted an incomparably high fighting spirit. At this moment, all he wanted to do was to kill in a frenzy. However, his opponent was as slippery as a loach. He simply didn't want to confront him head-on. This made Chu Gu feel as if he didn't know where to start and where to exert his power. This made Chu Gu extremely annoyed. Dan Qingzi's movement technique was extremely fast. He relied on his speed to move rapidly in the void around Chu Gu. Layers upon layers of golden shadows shot towards Chu Gu. These were the countless golden needles transformed from his natal magic treasure. "Damn it!" Chu Gu roared incessantly as he swung the sky demon saber, shattering all of the incoming golden lights. Although Chu Gu relied on the sky demon saber's ferocious might to gain the upper hand, it was difficult to determine the victor in this confrontation between the two peerless experts. At this time, Dongli Patian finally arrived. "Kill that brat on the ancient stone bridge for me," Chu Gu directly ordered Dongli Patian. He was entangled by Dan Qingzi, so he couldn't free himself to kill Gu Fei. Yes, Dongli Patian immediately accepted the order and rushed towards Gu Fei. The two were separated by a few hundred meters, but Dongli Skybreaker's speed was as fast as the wind and lightning. In just an instant, he had arrived before the ancient stone bridge. The moment he stepped onto the bridge, Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on the bridge, suddenly opened his eyes. "Gu Fei, you can die now. Heavenly demon slaughters gods. Blood slaughter 10,000 miles." Dongli Potion's long hair danced in the wind. As his hands moved, waves of blood-colored energy surged out, illuminating the heaven and earth. It was as if a world of blood had opened up between his hands and was about to devour Gu Fei. Swoosh! Gu Fei didn't stand up, but his body retreated like a flickering shadow, leaving behind a trail of afterimages in the void. He used his extreme speed to rush out from the shroud of the evil world of blood. He then pressed his hands against the ground and soared into the sky. "You want to kill me? You don't have the right." Gu Fei's eyes emitted a blade-like glare as he directly unleashed a palm strike towards Dongli Patian. Rumble! A huge, five-colored hand condensed in front of Gu Fei's palm. It quickly grew to the size of a small mountain. It emitted a frightening energy fluctuation as it rushed towards the east, parting heaven-breaking seal. Gu Fei's first move was the 5-elemental annihilation palm. However, he was shocked to find that he couldn't draw upon the power of the 5 elements in the grand heaven and earth. Below the stone bridge was the abyss of immortals and demons. Surging demonic energy surged, and the power of the heaven and earth was extremely chaotic. Gu Fei couldn't borrow the power of the 5 elements to bring out the 5-elemental annihilation palm to its peak. 6-path void. As Dongli Patian moved his thoughts, he used the divine ability that was passed down to him by his master. The blood-colored world seemed to collapse all of a sudden, producing an unfathomable suction force that wanted to engulf the giant palm that was enveloping it. The power of the technique also seemed to be weakened and couldn't be exerted to its limit. The power of the void couldn't devour the 5-colored palm as it pressed down. Boom! With a loud sound, the mountain-like 5-colored palm violently collided with the world of blood. This was a head-on collision between a martial technique and a demonic technique. It was obvious that in a confrontation between a martial technique and a demonic technique, the martial technique that broke through the law with brute force was superior. The world of blood collapsed and the 5-colored palm also dimmed, but it didn't dissipate. Bang! Dongli Patian was directly sent flying out of the stone bridge by the palm, a trace of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. Gu Fei floated down from the sky and landed on the stone bridge. After a short period of recuperation, although his injuries weren't completely healed, they were at least 80% healed. He discovered that the stone bridge wasn't a suitable place to fight. The chaotic power of the abyss of immortals and demons caused the power of the heaven and earth to be incomparably chaotic, making it difficult to draw upon the power of the outside world for one's own use. However, the source of a martial artist's strength was their body. Therefore, the influence on Gu Fei wasn't that great. To Gu Fei, drawing upon the power of the heaven and earth was only a supplementary attack. Without the sky demon saber in hand, you're nothing, Gu Fei coldly said. His internal injuries were still healing. This was the advantage of having a powerful physique. The ability to heal injuries wasn't something ordinary cultivators could compare to. Preposterous. Dongli Patian couldn't help but be enraged. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Unexpectedly, the blood essence didn't scatter, but instead seemed to ignite, emitting a boundless bloody light. Within the bloody light, a heart-palpitating evil fluctuation spread out. One could vaguely see faint saber shadows appearing within the bloody light. Dongli Patian pointed at the bloody light in front of him. Pung! With a bang, the blood light formed by the essence blood suddenly exploded. Streaks of blood-colored Taoist shadows broke through the void and slashed at Gu Fei in an overwhelming manner. Chapter 317. In order to kill Gu Fei, Dongli Patian didn't hesitate to damage his own vitality. He used his own blood essence to activate the demonic blood saber, condensing 81 blood-colored saber shadows with his blood essence. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they slashed at Gu Fei on the ancient stone bridge. The crimson blade shadows were faint and illusory, but as they rapidly streaked through the air, they emitted a heart-palpitating sound. There seemed to be tens of thousands of demons howling within the crimson light. Oomph! Gu Fei moved his feet and immediately retreated to the ancient stone bridge. An unbelievable scene occurred. When the 81 blood shadow demonic blades chopped into the range of the ancient stone bridge above the abyss of immortals and demons, they immediately stopped, and their radiance quickly dimmed. Wah! Dongli Patian felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. His body violently trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, the 81 crimson blades that had slashed into the stone bridge rapidly faded and completely disappeared into the void. There seemed to be an unfathomable power on the stone bridge, a power capable of sealing magical arts. Dongli Potion's attack had been obliterated by this unfathomable power. How could this be? Dongli Patian had never imagined such an outcome. Apart from shock, he was also extremely depressed. Not only had his all-out attack failed to pose any threat to Gu Fei, but it had also resulted in a great loss of vitality. The abyss of immortals and demons was a strange place. Above the abyss, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was extremely chaotic and difficult to draw upon. The stone bridge that spanned across the abyss didn't seem to be an ordinary item either. The stone bridge stretched into the abyss of immortals and demons as far as the eye could see. Pitch-black demonic energy roiled beneath the bridge, emitting a terrifying demonic aura. It was as if a ferocious demon could rush out from beneath the stone bridge at any moment. At this time, Gu Fei rushed back from the bridge and pressed towards Dongli Patian. His battle intent surged like a rainbow as his aura firmly locked onto Dongli Patian. Over the past few days in the extreme North Demon region, he had been hunted down by the Six Paths Demon Palace. He had been extremely frustrated. Now, it was time for him to vent his frustrations. No words were exchanged. At this moment, any words would have been superfluous. Gu Fei directly attacked Dongli Patian. He took a step forward, leaving behind an afterimage where he was standing. He appeared in the sky above Dongli Patian as if he had teleported. Gu Fei's foot stomped down on Dongli Patian's head like a casual stroll. A terrifying energy gushed forth from his foot, enveloping a part of the heavens and earth. It was like a gigantic mountain crushing down on Dongli Patian. Bam! Without any suspense, Dongli Patian was sent flying. Without the Sky Devil Blade, and with his vitality severely injured, Dongli Patian could no longer contend against Gu Fei. If you want to kill me, then you'll have to be prepared to be killed. Gu Fei's words were extremely cold. As he spoke, he took a second step towards the east-parting heaven splitter. Like a phantom, Gu Fei caught up to Dongli Patian in the blink of an eye and took a second step towards the latter's chest. Dongli Skybreaker raised his hands in an attempt to deflect the terrifying power of the second step. However, the second step was twice as powerful as the first step. It was as if 100,000 mountains were crashing down at the same time, and it was difficult to block the shift. Crack! The bones in Dongli Patian's arms were instantly broken. He flew hundreds of meters away, blood spurting from his mouth, and fell to the ground. If this step had landed on his chest, Dongli Patian's body would have been thoroughly destroyed. Although cultivators and demonic cultivators didn't cultivate the strength of their bodies couldn't be damaged before they reached the demigod realm. Once their bodies were destroyed, their cultivation would be half-crippled even if they managed to escape with the primordial demon core. Gu Fei was about to take the third step and kill Dongli Patian on the spot, but he suddenly saw figures flickering in front of him. It was the 8 demonic cultivators who'd used the myriad demon formation to trap him. These 8 fellows were all Dongli Patian's junior brothers. Their seniority wasn't determined by who entered the sect first, but by their strength. In the past few years, Dongli Patian's strength had stood out among his fellow brothers, suppressing his peers and becoming the first senior brother. His 8 junior brothers were naturally unconvinced and constantly wanted to drag Dongli Patian down from his position as the first senior brother. The 8 of them had actually arrived a long time ago, but they'd concealed themselves to the side, coldly watching the battle between Gu Fei and Dongli Patian. They wanted to see Dongli Patian make a fool of himself, so they didn't make a move. However, when Dongli Patian was defeated by Gu Fei and was about to die at Gu Fei's feet, these fellows couldn't sit still anymore. They wouldn't be able to live if they didn't help Dongli Patian. Their arrival didn't escape Chu Ji's notice. The devil flag rushed out and was grabbed by the 8 devil Dao cultivators. In an instant, it grew larger and began to dance in the air. A torrential demonic aura surged out from the banners and enveloped the entire area, trapping Gu Fei in the myriad demon formation once more. Demonic aura surged, a chilling wind blew, and green flames danced. One could vaguely make out demonic figures within the demonic aura. It's this move again. Learning from his mistakes, Gu Fei had already experienced the power of the myriad demon formation. Thus, he took advantage of the fact that the formation hadn't fully activated yet to unleash its full power to break through the layers of demonic aura and charge out. Bzzz. A crisp sword chime rang out as 5 illusory sword images appeared from his body and revolved around him. 8 figures walked out of the demonic aura with the banners in their hands. The one in the lead waved the banner, summoning countless demonic figures that pounced at Gu Fei. Gu Fei sneered. With a wave of his hand, a fiery red sword image that was fluttering by his side was drawn into his hand. After that, it transformed into a blazing sword light that was 30 meters long and slashed towards the demonic figure that was pouncing over. Boom! The demonic figures collided with the blazing sword light, causing a blinding light to erupt. The blazing sword chi of the 5 elemental sword chi was able to restrain the power of Yin and evil. Amidst the blazing sword light, the demonic figures exploded one after another. The resulting energy fluctuations shook the void. It was then that the other 7 demonic cultivators waved the demonic flags in their hands at Gu Fei. Instantly, demonic energy surged out to blot out the sky. Next, countless demonic silhouettes charged out from the demonic flags to pounce on Gu Fei. This part of the world suddenly darkened, as if it had turned into a terrifying demonic prison. It was as if countless fiends had rushed out from hell. The demonic figures howled and howled, looking extremely eerie and frightening. Gu Fei used his 5 swords to defend himself against the attacks of the 8 demonic cultivators. However, it was still extremely strenuous. The countless demonic figures exploded with an astonishing amount of energy. It was as if incomparably vicious lightning was madly bombarding Gu Fei, forcing him to continuously retreat. The 8 demonic cultivators were all at least at the transcending mortality realm. With the 8 of them working together, even Gu Fei found it difficult to deal with them. Gu Fei intentionally retreated towards the ancient stone bridge. He wanted to lure these fellows onto the stone bridge. Don't let him onto the stone bridge. At this time, Dongli Potion's voice rang out from within the demonic aura. At the same time, a powerful wave of energy surged out from the demonic aura. Senior brother, you, Sky Demon Disintegration, you're crazy. It was difficult to see the silhouettes within the surging demonic aura, but the voice still rang out. It seemed that something shocking had happened within the demonic aura. Roar! With a furious roar, a crazed silhouette rushed out from the demonic aura and appeared behind Gu Fei in an instant, blocking his path of retreat. The terrifying silhouette was shrouded in demonic aura. A pair of blood-red eyes were faintly discernible within the demonic aura. An energy fluctuation as heavy as a mountain emanated from that person's body. Gu Fei, that person's battle intent surged like a rainbow, and his killing intent surged into the sky. He seemed to have uttered those 2 words through clenched teeth. Gu Fei seemed to hear the sound of teeth grinding. No matter what secret technique you use, you won't be able to change anything, Gu Fei coldly said. He already knew who this person was, but even so, he was still somewhat astonished. In such a short period of time, the heavily injured Dongli Patian seemed to have been reborn. His strength seemed to have risen to an unimaginable level, but he still wasn't Lin Fan's match. Is that so? Dongli Potion's words didn't contain the slightest bit of emotion that a human should have. It was as if he had transformed into a devil. Then, a huge pitch-black hand condensed in front of him and grabbed at Gu Fei. Gu Fei was surrounded by enemies from all sides. Dongli Patian had also blocked the path to the stone bridge. He was in a perilous situation. It would be very troublesome if he didn't rush out. Great 5 Elemental Annihilation Palm. Gu Fei blocked the attacks of the 8 demonic cultivators with his 5 sword shadows, then met Dongli Potion's palm with his own. Bang! The 5-colored palm of light collided with the huge, pitch-black hand. The power of the 5 elements and the demonic energy exploded at the same time. A terrifying energy storm swept out in all directions, causing the earth to violently tremble and a circle of dust to sweep out. The demonic flag emitted layers upon layers of demonic aura, but it was instantly dispersed by this energy storm. The 8 demonic cultivators cried out in alarm and retreated far away. These guys were extremely cunning. They retreated as soon as they sensed danger. The 2 giant hands that had been condensed from energy collapsed and disappeared into the void at the same time. The remaining power that had erupted from them had caused the ground between the 2 of them to sink down, forming a huge pit with a diameter of 100 feet. In this exchange, Gu Fei stood tall like a mountain, while Dongli Patian staggered 3 steps back. He had to admit that he wouldn't be a match for Gu Fei even if he used the Heavenly Demon Disintegration secret art without the Heavenly Demon Saber. What heavenly demon disintegration art? It's just us. Gu Fei pressed forward with large strides. He threw a simple punch. His movement was very slow. It looked like an ordinary punch, but the powerful oppressive feeling was like the edge of a blade. It forcefully cut off a few feet of sand from the ground, causing smoke and dust to billow. The 8 demonic cultivators who retreated felt a dull pain on their faces, as if they were being scratched by a blade. Yi Shiwen's right fist erupted with a dazzling golden radiance. The astral wind was vast and mighty. The golden radiance was like a monstrous wave, fiercely slapping towards Dongli Patian. This was the metal element fist of the 5 elements fist. It wasn't a magical technique, nor was it a magical technique. However, it was even better than magical techniques and magical techniques. It was a true martial arts combat skill. Such a combat skill would be hard to find in the younger generation. This book. Chapter 318. Dongli Patian felt an unprecedented pressure. At this moment, a sense of helplessness arose in his heart. His opponent was like an undefeatable god of war. His opponent's strength had far exceeded Dongli Patian's imagination. Although Gu Fei's golden fist was advancing slowly, it had sealed off all of Dongli Patian's escape routes. The moment he dodged, the fist that contained the boundless power of the metal element would arrive in an instant and deal him a fatal blow. "You bunch of trash." Chu Ji's furious voice resounded in the sky. "If you don't kill that brat, I'll kill you all." Chu Gu, who was fighting with Minister Dan, noticed the situation over here and couldn't help but be enraged. However, he was being held back by Minister Dan and couldn't escape for the time being. The pressure was as heavy as a mountain. Gu Fei was like a terrifying ancient divine mountain as he moved forward. The power of the metal element fist shook the void and illuminated the heavens and earth with a golden radiance. Boom! Without any suspense, Gu Fei's fist energy was unstoppable. Dongli Patian was sent flying and landed on the stone bridge behind him with traces of blood seeping out from the corner of his mouth. He was somewhat dejected and disheartened. The Sky Demon disintegration secret technique had increased his strength by 2 levels, reaching the peak of the 6th sky of the Ascended Realm. However, he still couldn't contend against Gu Fei. It seemed like his opponent's cultivation was indeed a level higher than his. This was the embodiment of absolute strength. Dongli Patian's defeat wasn't undeserved. Gu Fei had firmly suppressed his opponent, but he didn't relax in the slightest. He continued to press forward and threw another punch at Dongli Patian. He didn't want to give his opponent any chance to turn the situation around. Earth Element Fist. A dusky aura enveloped this part of the world, as if the world had returned to primal chaos. A terrifying Earth Elemental Fist energy surged forward, enveloping Dongli Skybreaker on the ancient stone bridge. After hearing Chu Ji's words, Dongli Patian's 8 junior brothers instantly became ferocious and charged towards Gu Fei. Who? The devil flag fluttered in the wind, and green flames gushed out from the surface of the flag. The devil chi blotted out the sky, and a terrifying power surged out from the devil flag, condensing into numerous devil shadows, rushing towards Gu Fei. No one doubted Chu Ji's words. Even if these people were his disciples, if they made a mistake or disobeyed his orders, their fates would be miserable. One word from Chu Gu was enough to force Dongli Patian and the others to fight Gu Fei to the death. Infernal hell. Dongli Patian wasn't one to sit and wait for death. He waved his hands and a terrifying power surged out from the profound mysteries, blocking the way forward. However, Dongli Patian's body shuddered violently when the vast amount of energy formed a giant vortex in front of him. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and the spell he'd condensed instantly dispersed. The grayish aura that covered the sky and covered the earth also quickly dimmed when it rushed into the ancient stone bridge. There seemed to be an unfathomable power on the stone bridge that suppressed all power. Not only spell arts, but even martial arts and battle techniques were being suppressed. However, Gu Fei's fist energy was as heavy as a mountain. Although it was weakening, it still struck Dongli Patian. Bang! Dongli Patian was sent flying. At this time, Gu Fei made his move, raising his speed to the limit as if he'd teleported. Swish! He disappeared from where he was standing. He rushed onto the ancient stone bridge and instantly caught up to Dongli Skybreaker, who had been sent flying. He threw a punch at Dongli Skybreaker's chest. Dongli Patian was shocked out of his wits and raised his arm to block. Crack! The bones in his arm broke once again, and he fell heavily onto the bridge. He slid backward for 20 to 30 feet before he managed to stabilize himself. Not only had Gu Fei broken out of the 8 demonic cultivators' encirclement, but he'd also stepped onto the stone bridge and knocked Dongli Patian back with a single punch. The 8 demonic cultivators waving their flags were inwardly shocked. None of them had expected Gu Fei to be so strong. Dongli Patian was forced to retreat, blood seeping out of the corner of his mouth. By now, everyone had realized that there was something strange about this stone bridge that spanned across the abyss of immortals and demons. On the stone bridge, Gu Fei's martial arts and battle techniques had been affected by the unfathomable power of the abyss and couldn't leak out of his body. However, Gu Fei's strength came from his physical body, so he was much less affected than the demonic cultivators. As a result, Dongli Patian and his junior brothers were even less of a match for Gu Fei. Gu Fei continued to force his way towards Dongli Patian. His power was suppressed within his body. Although his body didn't emit the 5-colored radiance, the energy ripples that were as heavy as a mountain were still enough to make people's hearts palpitate. Kill! The 8 demonic cultivators roared, waving their flags as they charged onto the stone bridge. However, the moment they set foot on the stone bridge, Gu Fei abruptly retreated, leaving behind an afterimage. Pung! 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 The first 4 demonic path cultivators that rushed onto the ancient stone bridge were immediately sent flying away. The other 4 demonic path cultivators were shocked. They only saw the shadows of fists flashing in front of them as 4 fists smashed into them almost at the same time. The 4 demonic cultivators immediately waved the demonic flags in their hands and blocked in front of them. Pung! The demonic flags that were surrounded by demonic chi instantly collided with the incoming fist. The ferocious fist energy sent the 4 demonic cultivators flying as if they'd been struck by lightning. What's going on? Our magic power seems to be suppressed. The legend of the abyss of immortals and demons seems to be true. The 8 demonic cultivators who'd stepped onto the stone bridge were instantly sent flying by Gu Fei, but they weren't surprised by Gu Fei's strength. What made them inexplicably shocked was that the moment they stepped onto the ancient stone bridge, the surging demonic power in their bodies was quickly suppressed. It seemed that even the demonic flag in their hands could not display the power it should have, as if it had become an ordinary object. However, when they were sent flying by Gu Fei, the feeling of their cultivation being suppressed immediately disappeared as if it had never existed. The stone bridge spanned across the abyss of immortals and demons. It was impossible to see the end of it, and no one knew how far the other side was. Below the stone bridge was the violent demonic aura, and the power of heaven and earth was extremely chaotic. On the stone bridge, Gu Fei's cultivation was also suppressed. This situation seemed to be similar to the situation in the virtual sky world, where there was also a mysterious power that imprisoned the cultivator's cultivation. Those who entered the virtual sky world, whether they were transcending mortality cultivators or peerless void controlling cultivators, were all confined to the self-awakening realm. The feeling of being suppressed and unable to exert their power, of being unable to use their divine abilities and Taoist techniques, was something that those transcending mortality cultivators who'd entered the virtual sky world would remember for the rest of their lives. Inside the virtual sky world, Gu Fei didn't feel depressed because his cultivation hadn't broken through to the transcending mortality realm. But now, standing on the stone bridge, he felt suppressed. He strode toward Dongli Patian, who was constantly retreating. He wanted to use a battle skill to kill Dongli Patian, but he felt that all of his power was imprisoned inside his body, making it difficult for him to use a sure-kill battle skill. At this time, the advantage of having a powerful physical body showed itself. Although Gu Fei couldn't use powerful battle skills, the strength of his physical body alone was enough for Gu Fei to contend against cultivators below the 6th layer of the transcending mortality realm. Pushing off the ground with both feet, Gu Fei shot forward like an arrow. His speed was as fast as the wind and lightning. This was the power of his physical body. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Dongli Patian. Bang! His fist landed on Dongli Potion's abdomen. Dongli Potion's body immediately arched like a prawn, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Dongli Patian took a punch from Gu Fei. He felt as if his internal organs were about to be displaced. His internal organs felt like they were about to be overturned. He immediately suffered from internal injuries. Blood spurted out from his mouth and nose. Gu Fei followed up with an elbow strike, ruthlessly striking Dongli Potion's arched back. Bang! Dongli Potion's body came into intimate contact with the ground. Gu Fei's physical body was extremely tyrannical, and his close-quarters combat experience was even more abundant. In an instant, he had knocked Dongli Patian to the ground with lightning speed. In a battle against a cultivator, it was a nightmare for both cultivators and demonic cultivators to be forced into close quarters. Cough, cough. Dongli Patian coughed up mouthfuls of blood. His body had suffered serious injuries, and his spine had almost been fractured by Gu Fei's fierce elbow strike. I already said that no matter what secret technique you use, it won't change anything. You are destined to be defeated by me, Gu Fei coldly said as he stepped on Dongli Potion's head. As long as he exerted some force, he would be able to crush Dongli Potion's head. This was an undisguised insult. Dongli Patian was enraged. Having his head trampled on by someone almost caused his mind to collapse. A beast-like roar erupted from his throat. He wanted to struggle free from Gu Fei's foot, but Gu Fei's right foot was like a mountain, firmly pressing down on his head. He was powerless to resist. Seeing that Dongli Potion's life was hanging by a thread, the 8 demonic cultivators beneath the stone bridge couldn't care less anymore. They all waved their demonic flags and rushed onto the bridge. The demonic flags had already lost their power, but as transcending mortality cultivators, their martial arts were still quite impressive. The 8 demonic cultivators directly waved their demonic flags at Gu Fei. With their cultivation suppressed by the mysterious power of the stone bridge, they couldn't use any demonic techniques. These demonic cultivators were like toothless tigers, unable to pose a threat to Gu Fei. Gu Fei casually waved his hand to parry the incoming demonic flags. Each of his moves contained a tremendous force, causing the 8 demonic cultivators to stumble back. The demonic flags in their hands almost flew out of their hands. Chapter 319. Above the abyss of immortals and demons, there was an ancient stone bridge that spanned across the abyss. There was an unfathomable power on the stone bridge that suppressed everyone's cultivation, making it so that the demonic cultivators couldn't use any magical arts or divine abilities. Gu Fei wasn't an exception. He couldn't use any powerful martial arts or battle skills. However, the restrictive power on the ancient stone bridge gave Gu Fei the upper hand in his confrontation with the demonic cultivators. The physical body was the source of a cultivator's strength. It contained an enormous amount of power. Even though he couldn't use martial arts or battle skills, Gu Fei's strength didn't decrease because of this. However, the demonic cultivators were different. The suppression of magical arts and divine abilities on the ancient stone bridge meant that they had lost their greatest support. These cultivators weren't body-refining cultivators. Their physiques were much weaker than normal cultivators. Every muscle in Gu Fei's body seemed to be on fire. Although the power was confined within his body, the power that erupted from his flesh and bones was still as heavy as a mountain. The clothes on his upper body had long been torn to shreds. The muscles on his bronze-colored body weren't particularly bulky, but they gave off a feeling of great power. The surging 5 elements Yuan Qi surged within his body, but it couldn't penetrate his body. It was forcefully suppressed within. His bronze-colored skin seemed to be flowing with a layer of precious splendor. "You can die now," Gu Fei said indifferently. He was about to stomp down on Dongli Potion's head with his right foot. But right at this moment, a gust of wind blew at Gu Fei's face. Gu Fei's heart skipped a beat as he was sent flying by a powerful force. "Brat, it's not up to you to kill my people." Under the illumination of the blood-colored saber light, a tall figure chased after the flying Gu Fei with large strides. In the end, Chu Gu managed to break free from Dan Qingzi's entanglement and rushed onto the stone bridge in time to save Dongli Patian. Otherwise, This outstanding disciple of his would've had his head crushed by Gu Fei. A bunch of trash. There are so many of you. Yet you can't kill this brat. I even have to do it myself? What's the use of having you all? Chu Gu scolded. He was very disappointed with his disciples. Dongli Patian crawled up from the ground, his body on the verge of collapse. His injuries weren't light at all. After hearing Chu Ji's words, his face was filled with shame. He was the most outstanding person in the younger generation of the Six Paths Devil Palace. He was known as the #1 expert of the younger generation in the Monarch City. He had never been in such a sorry state before. At this moment, Dongli Potion's hatred for Gu Fei had reached its peak. Two beams of extreme hatred shot out from his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to tear Gu Fei into 1,000 pieces in order to vent the resentment in his heart and wash away the humiliation he had suffered. Chu Gu, your opponent is me. At this moment, an angry roar came from the distant sky. Bang! With a loud bang, a mass of bloody light exploded, and a figure shining with golden light rushed out of the bloody light. Swoosh! A golden rainbow broke through the sky and shot towards the abyss of immortals and demons. As if it had shattered the void, a golden figure landed beside the abyss of immortals and demons like a meteor. Dan Chengzi broke through Chu Ji's blockade and arrived at the ancient stone bridge beside the abyss of immortals and demons. Without thinking, he rushed onto the ancient stone bridge. The moment he rushed onto the ancient stone bridge, the golden light on Dan Chengzi's body immediately dissipated. The leaking metal elemental magical power was suppressed back into his body. Stop him! Chu Gu directly ordered his disciples. He himself waved the Sky Devil Saber and fiercely slashed at Gu Fei. Preposterous! Gu Fei quickly dodged with the 8 Desolation Steps. Even though he couldn't truly use the 8 extreme steps of the 8 Desolation Steps, his mysterious footwork allowed him to continuously dodge the slashes of the Sky Devil Saber. The Sky Devil Saber, known as the #1 Devil Saber in the world, seemed to be suppressed by the mysterious power of the Abyss of Immortals and Demons, or the Ancient Stone Bridge. It was unable to display its power. Chu Gu waved the Devil Saber, but was unable to produce a 1,000-meter-long blade light. The blood-red Devil Saber trembled repeatedly, as if it was afraid and uneasy. The Sky Devil Saber, at this moment, revealed its true appearance. It was a blood-red weapon, covered with blood-red demonic runes, exuding an endless evil aura. On the body of the saber, there seemed to be streams of blood flowing, and there seemed to be countless blood-red shadows appearing, howling and wanting to rush out from the body of the saber. It was incomparably evil. The 8 disciples of Chu Gu waved their devil flags and surrounded Minister Dan, who was rushing onto the ancient stone bridge. The devil flags in their hands were able to emit thousands of feet of devil chi. At this moment, they were no different from ordinary flags. Although Dan Chengzi's magical power could not be released and was suppressed within his body, he was after all a peerless expert of the void-controlling realm and had rich combat experience. He directly rushed into the crowd, punching and kicking, beating up the 8 Devil Dao cultivators. In an instant, he rushed out from the midst of the 8 Devil Dao cultivators. Dongli Patian wanted to stop him, but was kicked in the chest by Dan Chengzi, causing him to fall and heavily hit the railing of the ancient stone bridge. If it wasn't for the railing of the ancient stone bridge, Dongli Patian would have fallen into the abyss of immortals and demons below the ancient stone bridge. Even so, Dan Chengzi's kick made him spit out a mouthful of blood, and his expression was extremely weary. The abyss of immortals and demons was an evil place. On the side of the northern devil domain, the vast and mighty devil chi under the ancient stone bridge formed a pitch-black sea of devil chi. The mysterious power suppressed the cultivation of the peerless experts of the void-controlling realm. It seemed that all the power released by the cultivators was suppressed. Dao techniques, divine abilities, martial techniques, as long as it was an attack in the form of power release, it would all be rendered ineffective. No divine abilities or magical arts could be used on the ancient stone bridge. All the cultivators on the ancient stone bridge could only fight in close combat like ordinary people. For a martial artist, this was definitely a great advantage. Whether it was a cultivator or a Devil Dao cultivator, their bodies were not as strong as a martial artist's. Not being able to use magical arts or divine abilities was tantamount to cutting off their greatest reliance. However, a martial artist's greatest reliance was their well-tempered physical body. Bam! Gu Fei's palm slammed on the back of the Sky Devil saber, shaking it away. His right leg was like a divine whip, sweeping towards Chu Ji's waist. When he saw that Chu Gu couldn't use magical arts or divine abilities on the ancient stone bridge, Gu Fei immediately felt relieved and decisively counterattacked. Close combat was a martial artist's strength. Damn it! Chu Ji's knee struck Gu Fei's sweeping right leg. Gu Fei's right leg struck Gu Fei's knee. It was like two pieces of divine iron violently colliding, and the sound of metal colliding rang out. This was a collision of pure physical strength. Chu Ji's body had been transformed by the demonic god's blood from God Demon Island, and had also become incomparably powerful. Gu Fei felt as if his right leg had struck an incomparably hard iron stone. The powerful recoil caused his right leg to go numb. Gu Fei decisively retreated. He was very surprised. Chu Ji's body was so strong that it didn't seem to be any weaker than his own. The power that erupted from Chu Ji's body seemed to be even stronger and more ferocious than his own. Just as Gu Fei was being forced back by Chu Gu, Minister Dan arrived. He took out an ancient sword from his magic treasure pouch, and with a chi sound, he directly stabbed it towards Chu Ji's back. Magic treasures were ineffective. On the ancient stone bridge, only such an attack could injure the other party. Chu Gu spun the heavenly devil saber and flipped it towards Minister Dan's ancient sword. He wanted to use the sharpness of the heavenly devil saber to break Minister Dan's ancient sword. Minister Dan knew that the ancient sword in his hand wouldn't be able to block the heavenly devil saber, so he hastily retracted his sword. Then his body moved along with the sword, stabbing it towards Chu Ji's dantian. The dantian was incomparably important to cultivators and devil Dao cultivators. This was because it was where the Dao nascent and devil nascent resided. It was the source of power for cultivators and devil Dao cultivators. Chu Ji's devil nascent had long since been devoured by a nameless devil god descendant on God Demon Island. He had spent a great deal of effort to use his second primordial spirit to cultivate a devil nascent again, and he viewed it as more important than his own life. Seeing Minister Dan's sword stabbing towards his dantian, Chu Gu couldn't help being infuriated. At the same time, his hand sank and the heavenly devil saber slashed downwards, blocking Minister Dan's ancient sword. At the same time, he punched towards Minister Dan's face. Chu Ji's physique was incomparably strong, and his fist energy was even more ferocious by Gu Fei. Minister Dan only felt a sharp pain from the wind blowing against his face. He couldn't help but be startled and hastily jumped back to dodge. A peerless void-controlling expert in the cultivation world, on the ancient stone bridge, was like a warrior in the secular world. Punches and kicks were exchanged, and sword slashes were exchanged. If others were to see this scene, they would definitely be dumbfounded. One had to know that a void-controlling expert in the cultivation world was also an expert of a generation. They had the power to move mountains and seas, and they had great divine abilities. Once such a figure engaged in a battle, it would definitely be earth-shattering. Even a casual divine ability or spell technique would be able to destroy a forest or blast a mountain to pieces. However, on the ancient stone bridge, even a void-controlling expert could only be like an ordinary person, fighting in close combat. The abyss of immortals and devils was difficult for mortals and immortals. All spells and divine abilities were rendered useless here. This was the barrier between the northern devil domain and the central plains. Regardless of immortals or mortals, they could only cross the ancient stone bridge to travel between the northern devil domain and the central plains. Of course, if the devil Dao cultivators of the extreme northern devil region wanted to enter the central plains, they didn't necessarily have to go through the abyss of immortals and demons. The extreme northern devil region's 9 great forces all had transmission arrays built in secret places in the central plains. They could directly teleport from their respective giant cities to the central plains. As for the major forces of the central plains, they also had hidden teleportation arrays on the barren land of the northern devil domain. They could also travel freely between the northern devil domain and the central planes without going through the abyss of immortals and devils.